2 months after my twin brother Marcus died from cancer, his lawyer called me and said, "Smith, Marcus left you a USB drive with strict instructions. He said to watch it alone and don't tell your wife Vanessa." What he warned me about in that final video saved my life and exposed a killer. The call came on a Thursday. I remember because Thursdays were the day Marcus and I used to meet for lunch at that Vietnamese place on 5th Street, the one with the chipped green awning, and the owner who never remembered our names, but always remembered we were twins. We'd been doing that since college every Thursday. Same booth, same spring rolls, different lives unfolding between us across a scarred wooden table. But Marcus had been dead for 2 months. 2 months, 3 days, and about 7 hours, if you want to be precise. And I was being precise about everything then, cataloging time like it mattered, like counting the minutes could somehow make them add up to something other than the enormous absence that had swallowed half of who I was. I was sitting in my home office when my phone buzzed. The room faced west, and the late afternoon sun was doing that thing where it turns everything golden and false, like the whole world is trying to convince you it's beautiful right when you know it's not. Outside my window, our neighborhood looked pristine, manicured lawns, German cars and driveways, the kind of wealth that whispers instead of shouts. Vanessa had picked this house. Vanessa picked everything. The number on my screen was unknown, but something made me answer. Maybe it was the time 4:47 p.m., almost the exact time Marcus had died in that hospice room, the morphine drip finally taking him somewhere I couldn't follow. Maybe it was just instinct, that twin thing everyone talks about, the invisible thread that supposedly connects you even when one of you stops breathing. Smith Harrison? The voice was professional, measured, the kind that's been trained to deliver bad news without inflection. "Speaking, this is Richard Huang. I was your brother Marcus's attorney." Was. Past tense. Still a gut punch every time. "I know who you are," I said. I'd met Richard exactly once, at Marcus's funeral, where he'd handed me a business card with embossed lettering and told me to call when I was ready. I hadn't been ready. I wasn't sure I ever would be. "I'm calling about your brother's estate. There's something he left for you. Something specific." I leaned back in my chair, watching dust motes swim through the sunlight like tiny drowning things. The estate's been settled. I got the letters, the distributions. Everything was straightforward. "This is separate," Richard said. And there was something in his voice now, a crack in that professional veneer. "This is something Marcus insisted be handled personally, and only after a certain period of time had passed. 2 months, specifically. He was very clear about that. 2 months. The same amount of time Marcus had spent in hospice, watching cancer eat him from the inside, while I sat beside him reading Tom Clancy novels neither of us cared about, just to fill the silence with someone else's violence, instead of our own grief. "What is it?" I asked, though part of me didn't want to know. Dead people don't get to reach back into your life. That's the deal. They leave, and you learn to live with the hole they leave behind, and eventually, the hole becomes familiar, almost comfortable. "A USB drive," Richard said. "Marcus gave it to me 6 weeks before he passed. He had very specific instructions." Through the wall, I could hear Vanessa moving around in the kitchen, the soft clink of wine bottle against glass. It was barely 5 o'clock. Then again, who was I to judge? I'd found my own ways to cope with Marcus's death, none of them particularly healthy, all of them invisible. "What kind of instructions?" I asked. Richard cleared his throat. He said, and these are his exact words, "Mr. Harrison," he said, "give this to Smith exactly 2 months after I die. Tell him to watch it alone. Tell him not to tell Vanessa. Tell him I love him, and I'm sorry, and this is the last thing I can do to protect him." The room seemed to tilt slightly, like the world had shifted a few degrees off its axis. "Protect me? From what?" "Mr. Harrison? Are you there?" "Don't tell Vanessa," I repeated slowly, tasting the words, my wife's name in my dead brother's mouth, wrapped in warning. Those were his instructions. Did he say why? No, but he was very insistent. He made me repeat it back to him 3 times, Richard paused. Look, I'm just the messenger here. I don't know what's on this drive. Marcus sealed it himself, in front of me. But I've been practicing law for 23 years, and I've seen a lot of deathbed requests. This one. He trailed off. This one what? This one felt urgent. Even though he was dying, even though he could barely stay awake some days, he kept asking about it. Making sure I understood. Making sure I'd follow through. I looked at the photo on my desk, Marcus and me, at his graduation from medical school. Both of us grinning like idiots, his arms slung over my shoulder. We'd been identical then. Mirror images. Two versions of the same person. Then time had started carving us into different shapes. He'd become a surgeon, steady hands saving lives. I'd become... what? A financial consultant, a husband, a man who counted other people's money and went home to a house that always felt too big. When can I get it? I asked. I can drop it by tomorrow if you'd like, or you can come to my office, whatever makes you more comfortable. Tomorrow. The word hung in the air between us, heavy with implications I didn't yet understand. Your office, I said. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. I'll be here. Richard hesitated. Mr. Harrison, Smith, I don't know what's on this drive, but your brother was scared. I've seen a lot of dying men, and they're usually scared of death. Marcus wasn't scared of dying. He was scared of leaving you. The line went dead before I could respond. I sat there in the golden sunlight, holding my phone like it might explain things if I just gripped it hard enough. Outside, a leaf blower started up somewhere. That particular suburban sound of leaves being moved from one place to another, accomplishing nothing but noise. Who was that? He stows. I turned. Vanessa stood in the doorway, wineglass in hand, still wearing her yoga clothes from this morning. She looked perfect, the way she always looked. Blonde hair caught in a casual ponytail, skin that glowed even in dim light. The kind of beauty that made strangers do double takes and made me feel grateful and suspicious in equal measure. We'd been married for 6 years. I'd loved her for 7. Past tense again. When had that happened? Work thing, I said, setting the phone down carefully. Client getting nervous about their portfolio. She leaned against the door frame, studying me with those green eyes that had once made me stupid with want. You've been getting a lot of work calls lately. Market's volatile. She sipped her wine. Dinner's in an hour. I'm making that chicken thing you like. She wasn't making anything. We both knew it. She'd ordered from that overpriced bistro that delivered an actual plate so it looked homemade. But I nodded anyway. Because that's what we did now. We performed marriage instead of living it. Sounds good, I said. She lingered another moment, like she wanted to say something else, then disappeared back down the hallway. I heard her footsteps on the stairs, heading up to our bedroom, or maybe her office, or maybe one of the 3 other rooms in this house that we'd furnished but didn't use. Don't tell Vanessa. Why? I thought about the last time Marcus had mentioned her, maybe 3 weeks before he died. He'd been lucid that day, between doses, his eyes clear for the first time in a week. We'd been alone. Vanessa had stopped visiting after the first few times, claiming hospitals made her anxious, and he'd grabbed my hand with surprising strength. Smith, he'd said, his voice rough from the breathing tube they'd had in the night before. I need to tell you something. But then the nurse had come in, and whatever he'd wanted to say had dissolved into medication schedules and pain management discussions. When she'd left, Marcus had closed his eyes, exhausted, and I'd told myself we'd talk later. There hadn't been a later. Or maybe there had been. Maybe this was it. This USB drive, this message from the grave, this warning wrapped in my brother's dying breath. I opened my laptop and stared at my calendar. Tomorrow, 9 a.m., Richard Huang's office, downtown, 45 minutes in traffic. Vanessa taught Pilates on Friday mornings, left the house by 7:30, usually didn't come back until noon. I could go, get the drive, come home, watch whatever was on it, and she'd never know. Except, and this was the thought that made my stomach turn, why did that feel like the plan? Why did I already know I'd lie about where I was going? Why did the idea of keeping this from my wife feel not just necessary, but natural? The sun slipped behind the neighbor's roof, and the golden light vanished, replaced by the creeping gray of early evening. I watched shadows pool in the corners of my office, the way darkness always found the edges first, working its way inward. My phone buzzed again. A text from my sister-in-law, Alicia Marcus's widow, checking in the way she'd been doing every few days since the funeral. "Thinking of you," it said, followed by a heart emoji that felt both sincere and inadequate. I typed back, "You too. How are the kids?" 3 dots appeared, then disappeared, then appeared again. Finally, asterisk, adjusting. "They ask about him every day. Sophie made a drawing of him at school. Her teacher said it was very detailed for a 5-year-old. Asterisk. I could picture it Marcus's kind eyes, his surgical hands, probably a stethoscope because that's what kids thought doctors wore, even though Marcus had been a trauma surgeon who spent most of his time in OR greens, covered in other people's blood. "Send me a picture?" I wrote. The photo came through a minute later. Sophie's crayon drawing showed a stick figure in blue scrubs, smiling impossibly wide, standing next to smaller stick figures herself and her baby brother Max. Above them, she'd drawn a yellow sun. Below, in wobbly kid handwriting, "Daddy is watching us from heaven. Daddy is watching us." Something cracked in my chest. One of those hairline fractures that doesn't break you completely, but changes the architecture of how you hold yourself together. "Beautiful," I texted back, because what else could I say? Alicia sent 3 more words. "He loved you." Present tense this time. As if love outlived death. As if love was the thing that got to stay, while everything else turned to ash and memory. I set my phone down and looked at my wedding photo on the bookshelf. Vanessa and me on some beach in Mexico. Both of us laughing at something the photographer had said. The ocean behind us doing its eternal thing, indifferent to our happiness, or lack thereof. Marcus had been my best man. He'd given a toast that made people cry, talking about growing up with someone who was literally your other half, about how finding Vanessa had been like watching me become whole in a different way. He'd said he'd never seen me happier. He'd been right. I had been happy. Deliriously, stupidly happy. When had that changed? I tried to pinpoint a moment, a scene, a conversation, where things had shifted from love to performance. But it wasn't like that. It never is. It's more like erosion. You don't notice the cliff falling away until you're standing on the edge, wondering when the ground beneath you became air. "Smith?" Vanessa called from upstairs. "Do you want the Chardonnay or the Pinot Grigio?" "You pick." I called back. "That's not an answer. Whichever you prefer." A pause, heavy with the weight of 6 years of me not having preferences, not making choices, not doing anything but agreeing and accommodating, and slowly disappearing into the shape of who she wanted me to be. "Never mind," she said finally. "I'll just open both." I listened to her, moving around up there, drawers opening, cabinets closing, the domestic sounds of a life that looked perfect from the outside and felt hollow from within. Or maybe I was the hollow one. Maybe Marcus's death had scooped out everything that used to matter, leaving just this shell that went through motions and paid bills and pretended that existing was the same as living. Tell him to watch it alone. Tell him not to tell Vanessa. I looked at the time, 5:23 p.m., 15 hours until I'd sit in Richard Huang's office and take possession of whatever message Marcus had left me. 15 hours of pretending everything was normal, that I wasn't walking around with questions eating at me from the inside. "What did you see, Marcus?" I thought. "What did you know?" And the question underneath that one, the one I didn't want to ask, what don't I know about my own life? The leaf blower finally stopped. In the sudden silence, I could hear everything: Vanessa's footsteps overhead, the hum of the refrigerator, the blood moving through my veins, time passing in seconds that sounded like accusations. I picked up my phone and looked at Sophie's drawing again. Marcus watching from heaven. Marcus, who'd spent his life saving people, who'd looked at broken bodies and known exactly how to put them back together. What had he seen in my life that needed fixing? And why had he waited until he was dead to tell me? I didn't sleep that night. Vanessa, did she always slept beautifully, like someone with nothing to hide, her breathing deep and even, one arm thrown across my side of the bed in a gesture that might have been affection or might have been habit. I lay there in the dark beside her, watching the ceiling fan make its slow rotations, counting the blades I couldn't see, and thinking about all the things Marcus might have wanted to tell me. At 2:47 a.m., I gave up on sleep entirely. I slid out of bed carefully, the way you do when you don't want to wake someone, but also when you're not sure you care if they wake. Vanessa didn't stir. I stood there for a moment, looking at her in the dim light that filtered through our blackout curtains, still beautiful, still perfect, still somehow a stranger sleeping in my bed. When had that happened? When had the woman I'd married become someone I studied like a puzzle I couldn't solve? I padded downstairs in bare feet, the hardwood cold against my skin. Our house had that particular silence that comes with money, good insulation, solid construction, the kind of quiet that costs extra. Everything about this place was expensive, from the Italian tile in the kitchen to the fixtures Vanessa had special ordered from some boutique in Portland. She'd had a vision, she'd said. She'd wanted it perfect. Perfect! That word again. I poured myself a glass of water and stood at the kitchen sink, looking out at our backyard. Motion sensor lights flickered on, catching the eyes of some nocturnal creature, a raccoon probably, or a neighborhood cat, before darkness swallowed it again. I thought about predators, about things that moved in the dark, about how you never really knew what was out there until it was too late. Tell him not to tell Vanessa. The words had been circling my brain for hours, vultures looking for somewhere to land. Why would Marcus, who'd known Vanessa almost as long as I had, who'd welcomed her into our family with genuine warmth, who danced with her at our wedding while I watched from the bar, feeling like the luckiest man alive, why would he warn me against her? Unless he'd seen something I hadn't. Or worse, unless he'd seen something I'd been deliberately not looking at. I opened my laptop on the kitchen counter and pulled up our photo albums, the digital ones, Vanessa meticulously curated, organized by year and event with captions that made our life look like a lifestyle blog. Summer in Sonoma. Anniversary dinner at Canlis. Christmas morning. So blessed. I scrolled backwards through time, watching our marriage in reverse. There we were 6 months ago, at some charity gala Vanessa's friend had organized. Vanessa in a dress that probably cost more than most people's rent. Me in a tuxedo that made me feel like I was playing dress-up. We looked happy. We looked perfect. We looked like liars. I kept scrolling. There last Thanksgiving, at Marcus and Alicia's house. Before the diagnosis, before everything, Marcus had insisted on taking a family photo. All of us crammed onto their couch. I remembered Alicia laughing because Max had grabbed a fistful of Marcus's hair, and Sophie was making faces, and Vanessa was trying to smooth her dress, and I was just there, present but not quite participating. And Marcus. God, Marcus looked tired in that photo, didn't he? I'd thought it was just the stress of his job. Trauma surgeons don't exactly keep bankers' hours. But now, looking at his face, I could see something else. Worry lines around his eyes, a tightness in his smile, like he was carrying something heavy and trying not to let it show. Had he already known something then? Had he been watching Vanessa, watching me, seeing cracks I'd convinced myself were just the normal wear and tear of marriage? I closed the laptop before I could spiral further down that rabbit hole. The kitchen clock read 3:21 a.m., 5.5 hours until I needed to leave for Richard Huang's office. An eternity. I made coffee I didn't need and sat at our dining room table, the one Vanessa had bought from an estate sale, claiming it had character, which seemed to mean it was expensive and uncomfortable. Through the window, I watched the sky begin its slow transformation from black to navy to that particular shade of gray that meant morning was coming whether you were ready or not. My phone buzzed, a text from a number I didn't recognize. This is Richard Huang. I'll be in the office by 8:30 if you want to come early. I understand this is complicated. Complicated. Such a gentle word for whatever this was. I texted back, I'll be there at 8:30. 3 dots appeared. Then, your brother was a good man, Smith. Whatever he left for you, he did it out of love. I stared at those words for a long time. Love. Marcus had loved me. I'd never doubted that. Even when we'd grown apart, when life had pulled us into different orbits, that fundamental truth had remained. We were brothers. We were twins. We were two halves of something that had been broken the day he died. But love doesn't always mean protection. Sometimes love means looking away from things that hurt too much to see. Sometimes love means keeping secrets because the truth feels crueler than the lie. What had Marcus seen that I couldn't? I heard footsteps on the stairs, Vanessa, earlier than usual. I glanced at the time. 6:15 a.m. She wasn't supposed to teach until 8. She appeared in the kitchen doorway, wrapped in the silk robe I'd bought her for Christmas last year, her hair perfect even though she'd just woken up. Some women wake up looking like disasters. Vanessa woke up looking like an advertisement for expensive bedding. "You're up early," she said, moving to the coffee maker. "Couldn't sleep." "Thinking about Marcus?" Her voice was soft, sympathetic, the way it always was when she talked about my dead brother. Like he was a sad story, instead of half my soul, among other things. She poured herself coffee, added cream the way she liked it enough to make it barely coffee anymore, and leaned against the counter. "You've been distant lately. My brother died." "I know, but it's been 2 months. At some point, you have to start living again." She said it gently, like she was trying to help, but there was something underneath the gentleness. Impatience, maybe. Or calculation. "Is there a timeline?" I asked. "For grief? Did I miss the memo?" "That's not what I meant." She sipped her coffee, studying me over the rim of her mug. "I just worry about you. You're not yourself. Maybe this is myself. Maybe the person I was before is the one who wasn't real." The words came out harsher than I intended, but I didn't take them back. They sat between us in the kitchen, taking up space, demanding acknowledgement. Vanessa's expression didn't change. That was one of her talents, maintaining composure no matter what. "You sound like you're having some kind of existential crisis." "My twin brother died." "I'm allowed an existential crisis." "Of course you are." She set down her mug. "I'm just saying that I'm here. If you want to talk, if you need anything." Anything except honesty, I thought. Anything except whatever truth Marcus died protecting me from. "I have an early meeting," I said instead. "Downtown. I should get ready." "On a Friday? I thought you kept Fridays light." "Special circumstances. Client situation." She nodded slowly, and I wondered if she believed me. I wondered if it mattered. "I have Pilates at 7:30. Then I'm meeting Sandra for lunch. I'll be back around 2. Sandra. Vanessa's best friend since college. A woman who laughed too loud and drank too much and always seemed to be in the middle of some drama involving her ex-husband or her current boyfriend or her personal trainer. I'd never liked Sandra, and Sandra had never liked me, and we'd both been perfectly civil about our mutual dislike for 6 years. "Have fun," I said, which was what I always said. "You too." She kissed my cheek on her way past, a gesture so habitual it might as well have been muscle memory, and headed back upstairs. I sat there listening to her shower running, to the sounds of her getting ready, drawers opening and closing, the blow-dryer humming, the 1,000 tiny rituals of becoming the version of herself she showed the world. And I thought about masks, about the faces we wear, about how you can sleep next to someone for 6 years and still have no idea who they really are. Or maybe I'd always known. Maybe I just hadn't wanted to see it. At 8:15, I was in my car, driving through morning traffic, my hands tight on the steering wheel, like I could grip my way through whatever came next. The city looked different in early morning light, softer, more forgiving, like it hadn't quite woken up to the business of being itself yet. Richard Huang's office was downtown, in one of those buildings that tried to look modern and historic at the same time, all glass and exposed brick, and the kind of designer lighting that cost more than it should. I found parking in the garage underneath, expensive. Everything downtown was expensive, and took the elevator to the 7th floor. The law offices of Huang and Associates occupied the entire floor, which seemed excessive for what I'd assumed was a small practice. But then, what did I know about estate law? Marcus had chosen Richard for reasons I'd never asked about. The way you don't question your brother's decisions when he's dying and you're just trying to keep him comfortable. The receptionist, a woman in her 50s, with kind eyes and graying hair, pulled back in a neat bun, looked up when I entered.
Mr. Harrison?
Smith Harrison. I have an appointment with Richard. He's expecting you. Coffee? Water? I'm fine, thank you. She smiled like she didn't believe me, but was too polite to say so, then led me down a hallway lined with law books nobody probably ever read, past conference rooms with long tables and ergonomic chairs, to an office at the end, with a view of the city spreading out like a promise or a threat. Richard Huang stood when I entered. He was younger than I'd expected, maybe 40, with the kind of face that suggested he smiled often but wasn't smiling now. He wore a suit that looked comfortable rather than expensive, and his handshake was firm without being aggressive. Smith, thank you for coming.
You said my brother left something for me.
Direct. I appreciate that. He gestured to a chair. Please, sit. I sat. Through the window behind him, I could see the city waking up, traffic moving in patterns, people heading to jobs, the machinery of commerce in existence grinding forward like it always did. Indifferent to individual grief or revelation or whatever the hell I was about to experience. Richard pulled a manila envelope from his desk drawer and set it between us like evidence at a trial. Before I give you this, I need to say something. Your brother came to me 4 months before he died. He was already sick, he knew the diagnosis wasn't good, but he was clear-headed, sharp. He'd thought this through. Thought what through? He wanted to make sure that if anything happened to him, certain information would reach you, but only you, and only under specific conditions. Richard's fingers tapped the envelope. I've been a lawyer long enough to see a lot of deathbed confessions, Smith. Guilty consciences trying to clear themselves before the end. But this wasn't that. Marcus wasn't confessing anything. He was warning you. The word hung in the air between us. Warning. About what? I don't know. He didn't tell me. He said the less I knew, the better. Richard paused. But he was scared. Not of dying, like I said yesterday. He'd made peace with that. He was scared of what would happen to you after he was gone. He kept saying he was the only one who saw it, and once he was gone, you'd be alone with it. Alone with what? Whatever's on this drive. Richard pushed the envelope across the desk. He recorded something. A video, I assume. He sealed this himself, in front of me. I witnessed but didn't watch. Those were his terms. I stared at the envelope like it might bite. Thin manila paper containing God knows what. My brother's last words. My brother's warning. My brother's fear. He said something else, Richard continued quietly. The last time I saw him, maybe 2 weeks before he passed. He grabbed my hand. He was weak by then, but he grabbed my hand hard enough to hurt, and he said, "Promise me you'll give this to Smith exactly when I said, not before. He needs to believe it's over first. He needs to think everything's fine. That's the only way he'll see it clearly." See what clearly? He wouldn't say. Richard leaned back in his chair. Look, I'm just the messenger here. I'm giving you what your brother wanted you to have, the way he wanted you to have it. What you do with it after you leave this office is entirely up to you. But Smith, he met my eyes directly. Be careful. Whatever's on that drive. Marcus thought it was dangerous enough to keep secret even from his own brother while he was alive. Ask yourself why. I picked up the envelope. It was lighter than I expected, the weight of secrets never matching their impact. Inside, I could feel the small, hard shape of a USB drive, and a piece of paper, probably a letter, knowing Marcus. He'd always been better with written words than spoken ones. Even as kids, he'd leave me notes instead of having difficult conversations. Carefully lettered messages slipped under my door in the middle of the night, when something needed saying but couldn't be said out loud. "Thank you," I said, standing, "for keeping your promise to him. That's what he paid me for." Richard stood as well, then hesitated. "One more thing. Marcus gave me an envelope for Alicia, too. Different contents, different instructions. I gave it to her last week. I don't know what was in hers, but she called me the next day and thanked me through tears. She said Marcus had given her peace. And mine?" Richard looked at me steadily. "Yours," he said, "was about truth. And truth isn't always peaceful, Smith. Sometimes it's the thing that tears everything apart." I sat in my car in the parking garage for 20 minutes, just holding the envelope, not opening it, not moving, barely breathing. Around me, The garage echoed with the sounds of other people's lives, car doors closing, engines starting, footsteps clicking across concrete. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead, that particular frequency that sounds like desperation feels. Truth isn't always peaceful. I thought about driving home, sitting at my desk in that golden afternoon light, plugging this drive into my computer, and learning whatever it was Marcus had been too scared to tell me while he was alive. But it was only 9:15 a.m. Vanessa wouldn't leave for lunch with Sandra until at least 11. There was too much risk of her coming home early, of her seeing something, of her being there when I opened this Pandora's box my brother had sealed for me. Don't tell Vanessa. So I drove instead. East, toward the lake, toward the park where Marcus and I used to go as kids, back when we were still identical, still interchangeable, still two versions of the same person, instead of two people trying to remember what it felt like to be whole. The parking lot was mostly empty, too late for the morning joggers, too early for the lunch crowd. I pulled into a spot overlooking the water and just sat there, engine off, envelope in my lap, the USB drive inside it feeling like it weighed 1,000 pounds. I pulled out my phone and looked at my last text exchange with Marcus. It had been 3 days before he died. I'd sent him a photo of a sunset from our back deck, one of those automatic gestures of connection, showing him something beautiful because I couldn't fix anything broken. He texted back, "Beautiful. Take care of yourself, little brother." Little brother. He'd been born 7 minutes before me, and he'd never let me forget it, the way twins don't. 7 minutes. That meant everything and nothing. A gap in time that made him my protector, my guardian, the one who was supposed to look out for me, even when he was dying, especially when he was dying. Take care of yourself. Had he meant something more? Had he been trying to tell me even then, in those last lucid moments, that I needed to watch my back? That danger was closer than I thought? I opened the envelope. Inside was the USB drive, small, black, unmarked, and a single sheet of paper folded once. I unfolded it with hands that weren't quite steady. Marcus's handwriting. Shaky toward the end, but unmistakably his. Smith. If you're reading this, I'm gone. I'm sorry. I'm sorry for so many things, but mostly I'm sorry that I have to tell you this way, that I couldn't find the courage to say it to your face while I still had time. What you're about to watch will hurt. It will make you question everything. It will probably destroy things you thought were solid. I wish I could spare you this. I wish I could be there to help you through what comes next. But I can't. So instead, I'm leaving you this. Evidence. Truth. The thing I should have shown you a year ago, 2 years ago, the moment I realized what was happening. But I was a coward, and I kept telling myself I needed to be sure, that I needed more proof, that maybe I was wrong. I wasn't wrong. Watch this alone. Watch it all the way through. Don't stop, even when you want to, especially when you want to, and then decide what to do with it. Whether you confront her, whether you walk away, whether you burn everything down, that's your choice. I won't make it for you. But know this, I'm not leaving you alone. Everything you need, documents, recordings, proof, it's all on this drive. I spent the last year of my life gathering it because I love you, because you're my brother, because you deserve to know the truth even when the truth is ugly. You're stronger than you think, Smith. You always have been. You just let me be strong for both of us for too long. It's your turn now. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm always with you, even when you can't see me. Marcus. I read it 3 times. Then I put the letter back in the envelope, put the envelope in my glove compartment, and sat there staring at the USB drive in my palm like it was a live grenade. Don't stop, even when you want to. Especially when you want to. The lake stretched out before me, gray and restless, wind making patterns on the surface that looked almost like words, almost like warnings. I plugged the drive into my laptop. The cursor hovered over the single file on the drive. It was labeled simply, For Smith, MP4. Not Watch This, or Important, or any of the dramatic titles you'd expect for something that promised to destroy your life. Just my name, in capital letters, like Marcus was calling to me across the void between living and dead. I sat in my car overlooking the lake, laptop balanced on my steering wheel, and tried to convince myself to click. My finger was on the trackpad. The file was right there. One movement, one decision, and whatever Marcus had died trying to tell me would stop being a mystery and start being a truth I'd have to live with. But I couldn't move. Because once I watched this, once I knew, I couldn't unknow. Whatever was on this video would divide my life into before and after. And the before, however false it might be, was at least familiar. The after was uncharted territory, and Marcus's letter had made it clear. The terrain was hostile. Don't stop, even when you want to, especially when you want to. I thought about Vanessa at home, or maybe at Pilates by now, doing her perfect warrior poses with her perfect posture, surrounded by other perfect women in their perfect lives. I thought about her sleeping beside me last night, peaceful and undisturbed, while I lay awake wondering what my dying brother had seen that I hadn't. I thought about the last 6 years of my life, the whole architecture of my marriage, and how it would look once Marcus showed me the cracks in the foundation. I clicked. The video player opened. Black screen for a moment, long enough that I thought maybe it was corrupted, maybe this whole thing was a mistake, maybe. Then Marcus's face appeared, and the breath went out of me. He looked terrible. This had been recorded late in his illness. I could see it in the hollowness of his cheeks, the way his skin seemed thin as paper, the dark circles under his eyes that spoke of pain and morphine, and nights spent awake for all the wrong reasons. He was sitting up in what looked like his home office, the bookshelf behind him familiar, the afternoon light slanting through his window in a way that meant this had been recorded maybe 4 weeks before he died. 4 weeks. He'd been dying, and he'd been thinking about me, about protecting me. Hey, little brother. His voice was rough but steady, the way it got when he had something important to say. If you're watching this, then I'm gone. And Richard kept his promise. And you're probably sitting somewhere trying to decide whether to keep watching or throw this drive into the nearest body of water. Despite everything, despite the fear coiling in my stomach, despite knowing that the next few minutes would change everything, I almost smiled. He knew me. Of course he knew me. We'd shared a womb before we shared a life. Keep watching, Marcus said, leaning forward slightly. The movement seemed to cost him something. I know this is hard. I know you don't want to hear what I'm about to tell you. But you need to hear it, Smith. You need to know. He paused, closed his eyes for a moment, gathering strength or courage or both. It's about Vanessa. My heart stopped. Actually stopped. For a second, the world went silent, except for Marcus's voice coming through my laptop speakers. I've been investigating her for the past 13 months. I didn't want to believe it at first. I told myself I was wrong, that I was seeing patterns that weren't there, that my illness was making me paranoid. But I wasn't wrong. Smith, I'm so sorry, but I wasn't wrong. On the screen, Marcus reached for something off camera and held up a folder. Even through the video, I could see it was thick, stuffed with papers. This is everything I found. Bank statements, phone records, photographs, text message logs. It's all on this drive, organized by date. You can verify every single thing I'm about to tell you. But first, let me just say it, give you the headline before the article. He set the folder down and looked directly into the camera, directly at me, across time and death and the distance between truth and comfortable lies. Vanessa has been having an affair for the past 2.5 years with David Reeves, your financial advisor. The name hit me like a physical blow. David Reeves, the man I'd trusted with our investments, our retirement planning, our financial future. The man who'd come to our house for dinner parties, who'd brought wine and congratulated us on anniversaries, who'd shaken my hand and called me friend while apparently— It gets worse, Marcus said, and his voice cracked slightly. They're not just having an affair, Smith. They're planning to take everything from you. Your assets, your accounts, your life insurance policy, all of it. They've been moving money slowly, carefully, setting up offshore accounts in Vanessa's maiden name. They've been patient, strategic, And in about 6 months, based on the timeline I found in their communications, they were planning to make their move. I couldn't breathe. The car felt too small, the air too thick, reality tilting on its axis. "I need to show you something," Marcus said. He pressed something on his keyboard, and the video switched to a split screen. On one side, Marcus's face. On the other, a series of text messages, dated and time-stamped. I recognized Vanessa's number immediately. Vanessa, the 18th of April, 2024, 11:47 p.m. He's asleep. God, I can't wait until we don't have to do this anymore. Until I don't have to pretend. David, the 18th of April, 2024, 11:49 p.m. Soon, baby. We just need to be patient. Another year, maybe less. Once we've moved enough into the Caymans account, we can make the break clean. Vanessa, the 18th of April, 2024, 11:52 p.m. A year feels like forever. I'm so tired of playing the devoted wife. He's so fucking boring, David. Everything about him is boring. His job, his conversations, the way he touches me, even his grief is boring. My hands were shaking. The laptop wobbled on the steering wheel. David, the 18th of April, 2024, 11:54 p. That boring man is worth 3.2 million liquid, plus the house, plus his inheritance from when his parents died. You can handle boring for that kind of payout. Vanessa, the 18th of April, 2024, 11:56 p.m. I know, you're right. It's just hard some days. Like today, he wanted to talk about Marcus, about how sad he is, and I couldn't care less. His brother is dying, and all I can think about is how much longer until we're free. The video switched back to Marcus's face. He looked exhausted and furious and heartbroken all at once. "There's more," he said quietly. "Hours of this, weeks, months. I've documented everything. But I want to show you one more thing before I let you go process this. Because it's not just about the money, Smith. It's about what they were planning to do once they had it." Another split screen. This time, an email, dated 6 months ago, from Vanessa Harrison to David Reeves. Subject: Life insurance. D is to D. Called the insurance company today. Confirmed that the policy is still active, $2 million payout, plus the $500K from his work policy. That's $2.5 million, tax-free, if something happens to him. I know we said we just wait and divorce, but I've been thinking. Divorce means lawyers, means splitting assets, means he gets half of everything we've worked for. This way is cleaner. Don't freak out. I'm not talking about anything dramatic. Just opportunities. He's been so depressed about Marcus. He drinks at night. What if one night he drinks too much and drives? What if he has an accident? What if he's just so sad he can't go on? I'm just saying, people who are grieving make bad decisions all the time, sometimes fatal ones. Think about it. V. The world stopped. Just stopped. Marcus's voice continued, but I couldn't hear him over the roaring in my ears. My wife, the woman I'd married, the woman I'd loved, the woman who slept beside me every night had written those words, had thought those thoughts, had suggested, however carefully, that my death would be more convenient than my divorce. Smith. Marcus's voice cut through the static in my brain. Smith, look at me. I looked at the screen. My brother's dying face, full of love and pain and rage on my behalf. I need you to understand something. This isn't your fault. You didn't miss the signs because you were stupid or blind. You missed them because you loved her, and love makes us trust when we should question. She's good at this. She's been playing this role since before she met you. I found records she's done this before. Not murder, not as far as I could find, but the pattern is there. Find a man with money, marry him, take what you can, move on. You were just the biggest score. He coughed, a wet rattling sound that reminded me he was dying while making this video, spending his last reserves of strength to save me. I've left you everything you need to protect yourself. Financial records proving the money transfers, communication logs showing the affair and the planning, Even recordings, David was sloppy, left his phone unlocked when they met at hotels. I hired a private investigator. It's all documented, all admissible in court if you want to go that route. Marcus leaned closer to the camera, and I could see tears in his eyes. I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. I'm sorry I waited until I was dying to be brave enough to show you this. I kept thinking maybe I was wrong. Maybe I'd misunderstood. Maybe there was some explanation that wasn't what it looked like. But there wasn't. And the longer I waited, the more danger you were in. That email about the life insurance, that was the moment I knew I couldn't wait anymore. That was when I started documenting everything, making copies, preparing this for you. He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. The gesture so familiar, it broke something in my chest. You need to leave her, Smith. Tonight, tomorrow, as soon as possible. Don't confront her until you've protected yourself legally, financially. Move your money, change your passwords, get a lawyer. There's a contact on this drive, a lawyer I trust who specializes in this kind of situation. His name is Thomas Chen. He knows you might call. Marcus paused, gathering himself. I wish I could be there to help you through this. I wish I could watch your back the way I always did when we were kids, but I can't. So I'm doing this instead, leaving you the truth, leaving you the tools, leaving you everything you need to survive this. Another pause. On the screen, my brother looked smaller, frailer, more ghost than man. One more thing, and then I'll let you go. I need you to know this isn't the end of your life, Smith. It feels like it right now. It feels like everything is burning down, but you're stronger than you think. You've been living in a cage for 6 years, pretending to be happy when you were just numb. I watched it happen. I watched you disappear into her version of who you should be, and I should have said something then, and I didn't. And I'm sorry for that too. He smiled, and it was so sad it hurt to look at. But now you get to be free. Now you get to remember who you were before her. Before all of this. When I 700 buddy 1 Avermender. When I 700 buddy 100 buddy 100 buddy. When I 700 buddy 100 buddy. When I 700 buddy. When I 700 buddy 100 buddy. When I 700 buddy 100 buddy. When I 700 buddy 100 buddy. You can state as to the brother I grew up with. The one who was funny and fearless and didn't apologize for taking up space in the world. He's still in there. I know he is. Marcus reached toward the camera, like he could touch me through the screen, through time, through death itself. I love you, little brother. 7 minutes older and still trying to protect you. Some things never change. His hand moved, and the video went black. I sat in my car for an hour, just sat there, staring at the blank screen, not moving, not thinking, not doing anything but existing in the space between the person I'd been when I woke up this morning and the person I'd have to become now that I knew. Around me, the park slowly filled with lunch hour visitors, parents with strollers, couples walking dogs, old men feeding ducks at the water's edge. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that 20 feet away, in a parked car, someone's entire reality had just collapsed. I thought about Vanessa at Pilates, her body strong and flexible, bending into shapes that looked like grace, but were really just control. I thought about her at home tonight, asking me about my day, pouring wine, performing the role of wife with the same skill she'd been performing it for 6 years. He's so fucking boring. His grief is boring. What if he's just so sad he can't go on? I pulled up the drive's contents on my laptop. Marcus had organized everything into folders. Financial records, text messages, emails, phone logs, photographs, investigator reports, legal documents, contact info. Each folder was meticulously labeled by date, by source, by relevance. My brother had been dying, and he'd spent his last months building a case against my wife, documenting her betrayal with the same precision he'd once used to save lives in operating rooms. I opened the photographs folder. The first image was dated 8 months ago. A restaurant I didn't recognize, outdoor seating, evening light. Vanessa and David at a corner table, his hand on her thigh under the tablecloth. They were laughing. She looked happier than I'd seen her in years. The next photo, them entering a hotel, The Evergreen, downtown. Timestamp: 2:15 p.m. on a Tuesday. The same Tuesday, Vanessa had told me she was at a spa day with Sandra. Another: David's car parked in our driveway. Timestamp: 11:47 a.m. on a Thursday. A Thursday I'd been at work, at the office downtown, thinking my wife was home doing whatever wives do during the day: yoga, errands, apparently adultery. I clicked through image after image, each one a small death, each one a moment of my life being stolen while I was oblivious. Vanessa and David at what looked like a weekend getaway, mountains in the background. Vanessa wearing jewelry I didn't recognize, expensive pieces I'd never bought her. David's hand on her lower back, possessive and familiar, the gesture of someone who believed she belonged to him. Maybe she did. Maybe she always had. I opened the financial records folder. Marcus had highlighted the relevant transfers in yellow. Small amounts at first, $5,000 here, $8,000 there, moving from our joint accounts into accounts I didn't recognize. Then larger amounts, $50,000, $100,000. Money disappearing slowly enough that I'd never noticed, carefully enough that it looked like normal expenses, strategic withdrawals for investment opportunities David had supposedly recommended. Recommended, right. Recommended that he and my wife rob me blind. The total, according to Marcus's calculations at the bottom of the spreadsheet, was $847,000. Nearly $1 million, moved over 2.5 years, now sitting in accounts in the Cayman Islands under Vanessa's maiden name. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa. Done with Pilates. Meeting Sandra at Waterfront Grill. Home by 3. Love you. Love you. I stared at those words until they stopped meaning anything, until they were just shapes on a screen, symbols representing a feeling that had never really existed. Or maybe it had existed once, in that brief window, before she'd realized I was a mark instead of a man. How long had it taken? How many dates before she decided I was worth the investment? How many kisses before she'd calculated my net worth? Had she ever loved me at all? I already knew the answer. Marcus had given it to me in texts and emails and photographs. No, she hadn't. This had always been a con, a long game, a carefully executed plan to take everything from someone too trusting to see it coming. You're stronger than you think. Was I? Because right now, I felt like nothing. Like a hollow place where a person used to be. Like 6 years of my life had been performance art, and I'd been the only one who didn't know I was on stage. My phone buzzed again. This time, the caller ID said David Reeves. I stared at it. The man who'd been sleeping with my wife while managing my portfolio. The man who'd looked me in the eye and given me advice about my future while planning to steal it. The man who'd probably laughed about me when they were alone together, about how easy I'd been to fool, how perfectly the plan was working. The call went to voicemail. A minute later, a text from him. Hey Smith, need to discuss your Q4 allocations. Free for a call this afternoon? Q4 allocations. He was still doing it, still pretending, still playing the role of trusted advisor, while he and my wife counted down the days until they could take everything and disappear. Another year? Maybe less. I looked at the time. 12:43 p.m. Vanessa would be at lunch with Sandra for at least 2 hours, probably 3 if I knew Sandra. She'd come home around 3, relaxed and wine-tipsy, and she'd ask me about my day with that practiced interest that I now recognized as performance. And I'd have to look at her, have to smile, have to pretend I didn't know. Because Marcus was right, I couldn't confront her yet. Not until I'd protected myself. Not until I'd moved my money, secured my assets, built my own case. The moment she knew I knew, she'd act. She'd take whatever she could and run, or worse. What if he's just so sad he can't go on? I pulled up the contact info folder and found Thomas Chen's number, the lawyer Marcus had mentioned. I stared at it for a long moment, my finger hovering over the call button. This was it. The moment I stopped being a victim and started being something else, something harder, something that could survive what came next. I pressed call. The phone rang twice before a man's voice answered. Thomas Chen. Mr. Chen, I said. and my voice sounded strange to my own ears. Cold, flat, nothing like the man I'd been this morning. "My name is Smith Harrison. My brother Marcus gave me your number. He said you were expecting me to call." A pause. Then, "I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. Harrison. Marcus was a good man, and yes, he briefed me on your situation. How much do you know?" "Everything," I said. "I just watched the video. I've seen the evidence." "Good. Then we can move quickly. How soon can you get to my office?" I looked at the clock again. 12:45. An hour. "I'll be ready. Mr. Harrison Smith, don't go home yet. Don't contact your wife. Don't let her know anything is different. Can you do that?" Could I sit across from Vanessa tonight and pretend everything was fine while knowing she'd been planning to kill me for my life insurance? "Yes," I said. "I can do that." "Good man. See you in an hour." The line went dead. I sat there in my car overlooking the lake, watching the wind make patterns on the water, and tried to remember who I'd been before I'd pressed play on that video. Tried to remember what it felt like to be naive, to trust, to believe that the person you loved was who they said they were. But I couldn't remember. That man was gone. In his place was someone colder, someone who'd looked at evidence of their own planned murder and felt nothing but a strange, distant anger, like watching a crime happen to someone else. Maybe that was good. Maybe that was what I needed to survive this. I started the car. Thomas Chen's office was downtown, 45 minutes in traffic. I had work to do. Thomas Chen's office was nothing like Richard Huang's. No exposed brick, no designer lighting, no attempt to marry modern and historic into something that looked expensive. This was a working lawyer's space function over form, walls lined with actual case files instead of decorative law books, a desk covered in papers organized in stacks that suggested a system only their owner understood. Chen himself matched the office. Mid-40s, wearing a shirt with the sleeves rolled up, tie loosened, the look of a man who'd started his day at 6 a.m. and wouldn't finish until midnight. He had the eyes of someone who'd seen enough human ugliness to be surprised by none of it. Smith Harrison. He stood when I entered, extending his hand. His grip was firm, businesslike. "Sit. Coffee?" "No." "Thank you." Smart. "My coffee tastes like revenge." He sat back down, pulled a folder from one of his stacks. This one with my name on it, I noticed, and opened it. "Your brother came to see me 11 months ago. Early stages of his diagnosis, still strong enough to drive himself. He laid out what he'd found on your wife and asked me what you should do when the time came." "And what did you tell him?" "The same thing I'm going to tell you now. Move fast, move smart, and don't let emotion make your decisions." Chen leaned forward, elbows on his desk. "Marcus showed me everything. The affair, the financial transfers, the communications about life insurance. In my professional opinion, you're in immediate danger. Not hypothetical danger. Actual, physical danger." The words should have scared me. Maybe they would have, this morning. But I'd watched that video. I'd read those texts. I'd seen my wife suggest that my grief-driven suicide would be more convenient than divorce. Fear had burned itself out somewhere between the parking lot and this office, leaving only cold calculation in its wake. "What do I need to do?" I asked. "First, we freeze everything. I'm talking scorched earth financial lockdown." Chen pulled out a legal pad and started writing. "You have joint accounts with Vanessa?" "Most of them. Checking, savings, money market." "My investment accounts with David Reeves are in my name only, but he has power of attorney for trading. That power of attorney gets revoked today. Right now, actually." He pushed a document across the desk. "This is a revocation form. Sign it. I'll have it notarized and filed within the hour. By tonight, David Reeves won't be able to touch a penny of your money." I signed without reading it. Chen noticed. "You're taking this remarkably well," he said, watching me with those sharp eyes. "Am I supposed to fall apart? Most people do. Most people come in here crying or raging, or both. You're sitting there like we're discussing tax strategy. Maybe I already did my falling apart, or maybe I'm saving it for later." I set down the pen. "What else?" Chen studied me for another moment. then nodded like I'd passed some kind of test. Joint accounts, we can't freeze those without tipping her off, but we can protect them. I'm going to have you open new accounts at a different bank, then transfer exactly half of everything. That's your legal right. The other half, we leave. That way, if she tries to drain them, she can only get half, and we have documentation that you took only your fair share. She's already taken $800,000. I know. Marcus documented it. That's going to work in your favor. He flipped through the folder. California is a community property state. Everything acquired during marriage is split 50-50 in divorce. But theft changes that equation. Those offshore accounts, that money she moved without your knowledge or consent, that's marital asset dissipation. A judge will make her pay it back, possibly with interest, possibly with penalties. And the life insurance? Chen's expression darkened. That's the part that worries me most. That email, what if he's just so sad he can't go on? That's conspiracy to commit insurance fraud at minimum. At worst, it's conspiracy to commit murder. You think she'd actually do it? Not just talk about it? I think people who are willing to steal $1 million are willing to do a lot of things. I think your wife has demonstrated sociopathic levels of planning and manipulation. And I think that email was sent 6 months ago, which means if they were following any kind of timeline, you're potentially entering their window of action. He met my eyes. How's your marriage been lately? Has she been encouraging you to do anything risky, suggesting activities that might lead to accidents? I thought about it, thought about the past few months, trying to see them through this new lens of suspicion and danger. She bought me a motorcycle, I said slowly, 2 months ago. Said it might help with my grief, give me something to focus on. I told her I'd never ridden a motorcycle in my life. She said I could take lessons, that it would be good for me to try something new. Chen's jaw tightened. Did you? No, I never got around to it. The bike is sitting in our garage. Leave it there. Don't touch it. Don't learn to ride it. Don't go anywhere near it. He made a note. What else? Any other sudden interest in dangerous hobbies? She's been pushing me to go hiking, alone. Says I need solitude to process Marcus's death. She found all these trails, sent me links to remote locations with stunning views. Jesus Christ, Chen rubbed his face. She's literally shopping for places to stage an accident. You understand that, right? This isn't paranoia. This is a woman actively looking for opportunities. The cold feeling in my chest spread a little further. I haven't gone. I kept making excuses. Good. Keep making them. Better yet, starting today, you're never alone anywhere that could be considered dangerous. No hiking, no motorcycle, no late-night drives, no walking near ledges or water or traffic. He fixed me with a hard stare. I'm serious, Smith. People have died for less money than what you're worth. Don't make it easy for her. I nodded, trying to process that I was having a conversation about how to avoid being murdered by my wife. 3 hours ago, my biggest concern had been whether to have coffee or tea with breakfast. Now I was learning defensive strategies against spousal homicide. Here's the plan, Chen said, pulling out more documents. Today, we do financial triage. Revoke David's power of attorney, open new accounts, move half the joint funds, change passwords on everything, email, bank accounts, investment portals, life insurance policies. Tomorrow, we file a police report about the stolen funds. It won't lead to immediate charges, but it creates a paper trail. Then we file for divorce. How long does that take? In California? Minimum 6 months before it's final. But we can get a separation agreement in place much faster, which will protect your assets and establish that you're no longer cohabiting. You'll need to move out. Move out of my own house? It's not about fair. It's about safe. As long as you're living with her, you're vulnerable. You're sleeping next to someone who's discussed your death like a business opportunity. You need to be somewhere she doesn't have access to you. He was right. I knew he was right. But the thought of leaving my house, leaving my life, even a life built on lies, felt like surrender. Where would I go? Hotel for now. Somewhere she won't think to look. Register under a different name if you can. I know it sounds paranoid, but I've seen cases where he stopped himself. Let's just say, I'd rather you be safe and paranoid than trusting and dead. I sat back in my chair, trying to imagine it. Packing a bag, walking out, leaving Vanessa in our house, surrounded by all the things we'd accumulated together, all the props in her elaborate performance. Would she even care? Or would she just call David, open a bottle of wine, and celebrate that the boring husband had finally made it easy? When? I asked. Tonight if possible. Tomorrow, at the latest. She'll know something's wrong. She'll ask questions. Tell her you need space. Tell her grief is hitting you hard, and you need time alone. Tell her whatever keeps her calm and unsuspicious until we have everything locked down. Chen's expression softened slightly. I know this is hard. I know it feels like running. But staying in that house is playing Russian roulette with your life. Every night you sleep, there is a night she could act. You really think she'd kill me in our own bed? I think people are full of surprises, and none of them good. Carbon monoxide poisoning looks like natural causes. So does an overdose of sleeping pills in someone who's depressed about his brother's death. So does a fall down the stairs. I'm not trying to scare you, Smith. I'm trying to keep you alive. The office suddenly felt too small, the walls too close. I stood up, moved to the window, looked out at the city spread below. Somewhere out there, Vanessa was having lunch with Sandra, laughing, drinking wine, living her double life with the ease of long practice. Did she think about me at all when she was with David? Or was I just a problem to be solved, an obstacle between her and the money she'd already spent in her imagination? Marcus knew, I said quietly. He knew for over a year, and he didn't tell me. Why? He explained that when he first came to see me, he said he needed to be absolutely certain that accusing your wife of something like this without proof would destroy your marriage even if he was wrong. So, he waited. He investigated. He gathered evidence. And by the time he had enough to be certain, Chen trailed off. By the time he had enough, he was dying. Yes, and he made a choice. He decided that giving you irrefutable proof after his death was better than giving you suspicions while he was alive. He wanted you to believe, to know beyond any doubt that he wasn't confused or paranoid or influenced by his illness. I turned from the window. Did he know about the life insurance email? About her suggesting I might have a convenient accident? He found it 2 weeks before he died. That's when he came back to see me, even though he could barely walk. He brought his laptop, showed me everything, and made me promise to get you out safely once he was gone. He was terrified, Smith. Not of dying, of leaving you alone with her. My throat tightened. Marcus had spent his last days scared for me, using his final reserves of strength to build this safety net, to make sure I'd land somewhere soft when the trap finally snapped shut. He was a good brother, I said. He was. And he trusted you to be strong enough to handle this. Don't prove him wrong. I spent the next 3 hours in Chen's office, signing papers, making phone calls, dismantling the financial infrastructure of my marriage with the cold efficiency of someone defusing a bomb. First, the new bank accounts. I drove to a branch across town, opened checking and savings under my name only, transferred exactly half of our joint funds, $43,000 from checking, $127,000 from savings. The teller, a young woman with perfect nails and a bored expression, processed it all without comment. Just another transaction in her day. She had no idea she was handling the first shot in a war. Back to Chen's office. He'd already filed the power of attorney revocation and contacted my investment firm. David Reeves no longer had access to my portfolio. I imagined him finding out, that moment of realization, that his meal ticket was getting suspicious. Would he call Vanessa? Would they panic? Or would they stay calm, stick to their plan, assume I was just being cautious after Marcus's death? Change every password, Chen instructed, handing me a list. Email, bank accounts, credit cards, investment portals, life insurance, phone account, everything. Use a password manager, make them all different, and for God's sake, don't use anything she could guess. I spent an hour doing exactly that, watching my digital life lock itself away from the person I'd shared it with. Each new password was a door closing, a barrier rising, a small act of protection that felt both necessary and absurd. Life insurance, Chen said. We need to change the beneficiary. To who? Anyone but Vanessa. Your parents are deceased, correct? What about Marcus's kids? Sophie and Max. Perfect. Change it to them, with Alicia as trustee, until they're 18. Do it now, while we're thinking about it. I called the insurance company, navigated through the automated system, finally reached a human being. I need to change my beneficiary. Certainly. Can I have your policy number? I gave it to her. Heard typing. Okay, Mr. Harrison, I have you here. Current beneficiary is Vanessa Harrison, your spouse. Who would you like to change it to? Sophie Harrison and Maxwell Harrison. Equal shares. Trustee is Alicia Harrison until they reach 18. More typing. Then, just to confirm, you're removing your spouse as beneficiary? Yes. May I ask why? It's unusual for personal reasons, I said, keeping my voice neutral, even though I wanted to scream that my spouse had suggested I kill myself for the payout. Is there a problem? No problem. I just need to note the reason for the change. I'll put policyholder request. The change will be effective immediately. You should receive confirmation by email within 24 hours. Thank you. I hung up, looked at Chen. Done. He nodded approval. Good. That removes the financial incentive for your death. If she was planning something, she just lost the biggest payout. That might make you safer, or it might make her desperate. Hard to say. Either way, you're not sleeping in that house tonight. The office had darkened while we worked. Outside the window, the city lights were coming on, thousands of lives being lived, people going home to families and dinners and evening routines that didn't involve protecting themselves from murder plots. My phone buzzed. A text from Vanessa, home in 30. Want me to pick up dinner? I stared at the message, trying to read malice into those 11 words, but they just looked normal, domestic. The kind of text a wife sends her husband on a Friday evening. How was that possible? How could someone plot your death and still remember to ask about dinner? What do I say? I asked Chen, showing him the phone. Something normal. Keep her calm. Remember, she doesn't know you know. I typed, sure. Thai food? The usual place? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, perfect. See you soon. Love you. Love you. Those words again. Poison wrapped in endearment. I have to go home, I said. At least for tonight. If I don't show up, she'll know something's wrong. Chen didn't look happy. One night, you go home, you act normal, you eat dinner, you go to bed. Tomorrow morning, you tell her you need space to deal with grief, and you leave. You go to a hotel, you don't tell her which one, and then we file for divorce on Monday, and then we watch her very carefully to see what she does. I stood to leave. My body felt heavy, like I'd aged a decade in the last 6 hours. This morning, I'd been Smith Harrison, widowed brother, unhappy husband, man going through the motions. Now I was Smith Harrison, target, mark, man sleeping beside his would-be murderer for one final night. Smith, Chen said as I reached the door, your brother gave you a gift. He gave you knowledge. He gave you time to prepare. Don't waste it being noble or sentimental or whatever it is that makes people stay in burning buildings. You get out. You get safe. You let the law handle the rest. And if the law doesn't handle it, he looked at me steadily. Then we talk about other options. But let's cross that bridge when we come to it. The drive home took 45 minutes. I spent them practicing normalcy in my rearview mirror. Relaxed expression, neutral smile. Nothing that said, I know you're planning to kill me for my life insurance. Our house looked the same as it had this morning. Same manicured lawn, same expensive facade, same appearance of success and happiness. But I saw it differently now. Not as a home, but as a stage. A carefully constructed set where Vanessa performed the role of loving wife while planning the final act. Her car was in the driveway. The lights were on in the kitchen. I sat in my car for a moment, gathering myself. Inside that house was a woman who'd shared my bed, my life, my future. A woman I'd loved, or thought I'd loved, or had loved the idea of loving. And she'd been counting the days until she could cash in on my death. How did you have dinner with someone like that? How did you make small talk and ask about their day and pretend everything was fine when you absolutely knew that they saw you as nothing more than a balance sheet with a heartbeat? Marcus's voice echoed in my head. You're stronger than you think. I got out of the car. The front door opened before I reached it. Vanessa stood there, backlit by the warm glow of our entryway lights, looking perfect in yoga pants and an oversized sweater, her hair pulled back in a casual ponytail. She smiled when she saw me. Hey, you. I was starting to worry. Long day, I said, kissing her cheek. Her skin was soft, familiar, dangerous. How was lunch? Sandra's drama, as usual. Her boyfriend might be cheating, or she might be paranoid, or both. You know how she is. She linked her arm through mine, pulling me inside. I got pad thai and spring rolls, your favorites. My favorites. She remembered my favorites. She remembered everything that was part of what made her so good at this. The attention to detail, the carefully maintained illusion. We ate dinner at our dining room table, the expensive one she'd bought from that estate sale. She talked about Pilates, about Sandra's relationship problems, about the new restaurant opening downtown that we should try. Normal conversations, normal life, normal marriage. I watched her across the table and tried to see the truth beneath the performance, the calculation, the cold assessment of my net worth. The woman who'd written those emails, sent those texts, suggested that my grief-driven suicide would be financially convenient. But all I saw was Vanessa. Beautiful, charming, perfect Vanessa, who laughed at the right moments and touched my hand when she passed the rice and looked at me with what seemed like genuine affection. She was so good at this. You okay? She asked, tilting her head. You seem distant, just tired. Thinking about Marcus. Her expression softened into practiced sympathy. I know. I'm sorry, baby. Is there anything I can do? Yes, I thought. You can tell me the truth. You can admit what you've done. You can give me back the last 6 years of my life that you stole. No, I said. I'm fine. She smiled and squeezed my hand. I'm here if you need me. Always. Always. Until the life insurance paid out, until the offshore accounts were full, until my convenient accident freed her to run away with David Reeves and live the life she'd been planning for 2.5 years. I smiled back. I know. Thank you. We finished dinner, cleaned the kitchen together, went upstairs to bed. I lay there in the dark beside her, listening to her, breathing even out into sleep, and thought about Marcus, about his last days, spent trying to protect me, about the video he'd recorded with his dying breath, about the evidence he'd gathered, the case he'd built, the gift of truth he'd left me. And I thought about tomorrow, about walking out of this house, about the war that was coming. Beside me, Vanessa shifted in her sleep, her hand falling across my chest in a gesture that might have been affection or might have been muscle memory. I didn't move it. One more night. I could survive one more night. And then the reckoning would begin. I woke at 5:47 a.m. to the sound of rain against the windows. Not the gentle kind, the angry kind, the type that sounds like accusations, like the sky trying to wash something clean and failing. I lay there listening to it, Vanessa still asleep beside me, her breathing deep and undisturbed, the sleep of someone with nothing to feel guilty about, or the sleep of a sociopath. Hard to tell the difference sometimes. I'd barely slept. Every time I started to drift off, my brain would jolt me awake with some new realization, some fresh horror from yesterday's revelations. Around 3 a.m., I'd given up and just lay there cataloging all the moments I'd missed, all the signs I should have seen, the way she'd stopped asking about my day with genuine interest around year 3, the way she always steered conversations away from our future, no talk of kids, of growing old together, of anything beyond the immediate present, the way she'd been so understanding about Marcus's illness, so willing to let me grieve alone, giving me space that I'd mistaken for compassion, but that was really just disinterest. His grief is boring. I slipped out of bed carefully. Vanessa didn't stir. I stood there for a moment, looking at her in the gray pre-dawn light filtering through the curtains. She looked peaceful, innocent, like someone who'd never written an email suggesting her husband's death would be financially convenient. The human brain is remarkable in its ability to hold two truths simultaneously. This woman had plotted against me, and this woman looked beautiful in the morning light. Both things were true. Both things made me feel sick in different ways. I grabbed clothes from my closet: jeans, a sweater, nothing that would suggest I was going anywhere special. Just another Saturday morning. Just another day in our perfect life. The shower was hot enough to hurt. I stood under it, letting the water beat against my shoulders, and tried to prepare myself for what came next. I'd never been good at confrontation. Marcus had always been the brave one, the one who spoke up when something was wrong, who didn't let things fester. I was the peacekeeper, the accommodator, the one who'd rather swallow discomfort than cause a scene. But Marcus was dead, and his last act had been to give me a spine. The least I could do was use it. I dressed, went downstairs, made coffee with hands that were steadier than I expected. The house was too quiet. Our neighborhood was always quiet. That's what we'd paid for. Insulation from the noise of real life. But this morning it felt oppressive, like the silence before something breaks. I'd packed a bag last night after Vanessa fell asleep. Nothing obvious, just my laptop, some clothes, important documents, my grandfather's watch, things I couldn't replace. It was hidden in my car already, stashed in the trunk while I'd pretended to get something I'd forgotten. My phone showed 3 texts from Thomas Chen, all sent after midnight. Hotel reservation made. Checking in under the name James Miller. Confirmation attached. Police report filed online. Officer will call Monday for follow-up. You're doing the right thing. Stay strong. I stared at that last one. Stay strong. Easy for him to say. He wasn't about to blow up his entire life. He wasn't about to walk out of a marriage and into God knows what. But he also wasn't sleeping next to someone who'd discussed his murder like a business strategy. You're up early. I turned. Vanessa stood in the doorway, wearing one of my old t-shirts, her hair messy in that way that looked artful rather than chaotic. Even now, even knowing what I knew, she was beautiful. That was the cruelest part, that she looked like someone worth loving. Couldn't sleep, I said. Thought I'd get some work done. On a Saturday? She moved to the coffee maker, poured herself a cup. You've been working a lot lately. Busy quarter. She hummed non-committally, studying me over the rim of her mug. You seem different. My heart rate spiked, but I kept my voice casual. Different how? I don't know. Distant. Like you're somewhere else. She set down her coffee, moved closer. Are you okay? Really? This was it. The moment. I could tell her the truth right now. I know about David. I know about the money. I know about the emails. And watch her face change from concern to calculation to whatever lay beneath the mask she wore. Or I could stick to the plan. Get out. Get safe. Let the lawyers handle it. I think I need some time away, I said. Her expression flickered. Just for a second, something crossed her face that might have been relief or might have been concern. It was gone too fast to read. Away from what? From everything. This house, this life, the memories of Marcus, everywhere. I rubbed my face, and it wasn't hard to look exhausted, because I was exhausted. I need space to process, to grieve without feeling like I'm dragging you down with me. Vanessa's face softened into sympathy. Perfect, practiced sympathy. Baby, you're not dragging me down. I want to help you through this. I know, but I need to do this alone, just for a while. How long is a while? I don't know. A few days, maybe a week. I was thinking of getting a hotel, somewhere quiet, where I can just think. She was quiet for a moment, processing. I could almost see the calculations happening behind her eyes. Was this good or bad for her plans? Did my absence make things easier or more complicated? If that's what you need, she said finally. I understand. Grief is hard. Everyone processes differently. Everyone processes differently. Such a reasonable thing to say. Such a caring, supportive wife thing to say. And underneath it, relief. I could feel it radiating off her like heat. She was glad I was leaving. Of course she was. My absence meant freedom, space to plan, time with David without having to sneak around. "Thank you," I said, "for understanding." She hugged me then, and I made myself hug her back, made myself breathe in the familiar scent of her shampoo, made myself not recoil from the touch of someone who'd written those words about me. What if he's just so sad he can't go on? "When are you thinking of leaving?" she asked, against my shoulder. "Today. This morning, probably. I've already got some things packed." She pulled back, and if she was surprised that I'd packed before telling her, she didn't show it. "Okay. Where are you going?" "I don't know yet. I'll figure it out. You'll call me? Let me know you're safe?" "Of course." Lies. Both of us, lying to each other with the ease of long practice. Me pretending I was just a grieving man who needed space. Her pretending she cared whether I came back. I finished my coffee, rinsed the cup, set it in the dishwasher like it was a normal morning, like I was coming back later, like everything was fine. "I'm gonna grab a few more things," I said, "then I'll head out." "Smith?" She caught my hand as I passed. "I love you. You know that, right?" I looked at her, really looked at her, tried to find some trace of genuine feeling in those green eyes, some evidence that any of the last 6 years had been real. But all I saw was performance. All I heard was Marcus's voice in my head, warning me, protecting me, giving me the truth, even when it hurt. "I know," I said. It was the first honest thing I'd said to her in 12 hours. Because I did know. I knew exactly how much she loved me, and what that love was worth, and what she was willing to do to collect on it. I threw my last few items into a duffel bag, toiletries, chargers, the photo of Marcus and me at his medical school graduation. Vanessa didn't follow me upstairs. I heard her moving around in the kitchen, the clink of dishes, the ordinary sounds of a Saturday morning. My phone buzzed. A text from David Reeves. "Hey man, tried calling yesterday. Want to go over your portfolio Monday? Some opportunities in the tech sector." I stared at it. The audacity. The sheer fucking audacity of this man to keep pretending, to keep playing the role of trusted advisor while he screwed my wife and helped her steal my money. I typed back, "Actually, I'm making some changes. I'll be in touch." 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, changes? What kind of changes? Everything okay? Panic. I could feel it through the phone. He knew something was off. He just didn't know how much. I didn't respond. Let him wonder. Let him worry. Let him call Vanessa in a panic and try to figure out if their carefully laid plans were unraveling. Because they were. Every minute that passed was another thread pulling loose, another piece of their con falling apart. They just didn't know it yet. I grabbed my bag and headed downstairs. Vanessa was at the kitchen table scrolling through her phone. She looked up when I entered. "All set?" "Yeah." An awkward pause. What do you say to your wife when you're walking out knowing you'll never come back? When she doesn't know you know, and you can't tell her because it's not safe? And the whole thing is just this elaborate performance where you both pretend everything is normal when nothing has been normal for years? "Drive safe," she said. "I will." "And Smith? Really, take all the time you need. I'll be here when you're ready." She wouldn't be. Not in the way she meant. Because by the time I was ready, the divorce papers would be filed, the assets would be frozen, and her perfect plan would be burning down around her. But she didn't know that yet. I kissed her forehead muscle memory, habit, the ghost of what we used to be or what I used to think we were, and walked out. My car was in the driveway, rain still coming down in sheets. I threw my bag in the back seat, climbed in, started the engine. Through the kitchen window, I could see Vanessa standing there, watching me. She raised her hand in a small wave. I waved back. Then, I drove away from my house, my marriage, my life, and I didn't look in the rearview mirror because I was afraid of what I might see. Not Vanessa, just the architecture of 6 wasted years collapsing behind me. The hotel was downtown, one of those corporate places that looked the same in every city. Beige walls, generic art, the smell of industrial cleaner and other people's lives passing through. I checked in as James Miller, paid cash for 3 nights, took the key card from a clerk who didn't care who I was or why I was there. Room 447, 4th floor, facing the parking lot. No view, no charm. Perfect. I sat on the bed-firm mattress, scratchy comforter, the particular loneliness of hotel rooms, and tried to figure out what to do with myself. It was 9:23 on a Saturday morning. Vanessa thought I was processing grief. David probably knew something was wrong, but not what. Thomas Chen wouldn't be in his office until Monday. I was alone with the truth, and nothing to do but sit in it. My phone rang. Alicia, I answered. Hey yourself. Her voice was warm, familiar. Marcus's widow, my sister-in-law, the only person left who'd loved my brother as much as I had. I was thinking about you this morning. How are you holding up? The question almost broke me. Not Vanessa's performative concern, but this genuine care from someone who understood what it meant to lose Marcus. I stopped, started again. I'm not in a great place right now. Want to talk about it? Did I? Could I explain to Alicia that I'd discovered my wife's betrayal? That Marcus had died trying to protect me? That I was sitting in a hotel room registered under a fake name because I was afraid my spouse might kill me for insurance money? Not yet, I said. Soon, maybe, but not yet. Okay. She didn't push. That was Alicia. She understood that sometimes people needed space to fall apart before they could talk about it. I'm here when you're ready, for anything. I know. Thank you. Oh, and Smith? I found something of Marcus's. He left letters. For me, for the kids, and one for you. A physical letter, not just the video. Richard didn't mention it because Marcus wanted me to give it to you personally. Can I drop it by sometime? A letter. Marcus had left me a letter. I'm not home right now. I'm away for a few days. Where? I looked around the bland hotel room. Processing. I just needed to get away from everything for a bit. I understand. When you're back, then. Or I can meet you somewhere, if you want. Whatever works. I'll call you. Soon. We hung up. I sat there, holding my phone, thinking about Marcus writing letters in his final days. One for his wife. One for each of his children. One for me. What had he said? What else had he needed to tell me that wasn't on that video, wasn't in the evidence files, wasn't in the documented proof of Vanessa's betrayal? My phone buzzed again. This time, a text from Vanessa. Miss you already. Take care of yourself. I stared at the heart emoji. Such a small thing. Such a hollow gesture. She'd probably sent the text while calling David, already planning their next move, already discussing what my sudden departure meant for their timeline. Another buzz. Chen, you out? Me? Yes. At the hotel. Good. Stay there. Don't contact Vanessa unless absolutely necessary. We file Monday morning. Understood. I set the phone down and lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Somewhere in this city, Vanessa was in our house, probably on the phone with David, maybe panicking, maybe celebrating, maybe just recalculating. Somewhere, Thomas Chen was preparing documents that would tear apart my marriage legally. Somewhere, Alicia had a letter from my dead brother that I wasn't ready to read yet, and I was here, alone, safe, free. It didn't feel like freedom. It felt like drowning in slow motion. I spent the rest of Saturday in that hotel room, doing nothing. Not watching TV, not working, not even thinking, really. Just existing in that strange limbo between the life I'd had and the life I was going to have to build. My phone stayed silent, except for 2 more texts from Vanessa, one asking if I'd eaten lunch, one saying she was going to bed early and hoped I was okay. Each message was a small performance, keeping up the act even though I'd left the stage. Sunday was worse. The weight of inactivity, of waiting, of knowing what was coming but not being able to make it come faster. I ordered room service that tasted like cardboard. I took a shower that didn't make me feel clean. I sat by the window and watched rain fall on the parking lot and tried not to think about Vanessa sleeping in our bed, David maybe beside her now that I was gone, the two of them celebrating their freedom. By Sunday evening, I was crawling out of my skin. I needed to do something, needed to move, to act, to stop being passive in my own life. I pulled out my laptop and opened the USB drive Marcus had left me. I'd watched the video, seen the highlighted evidence, but I hadn't read everything. Hours of documentation remained text messages, emails, investigator reports, photographs, spanning 2.5 years. I started reading, and I learned exactly how long I'd been a mark. The affair had started at a charity gala 3 years ago. I'd been there, drinking overpriced wine and making small talk with donors while Vanessa networked. I remembered her introducing me to David that night. "This is my husband, Smith. David handles our investments. Isn't he wonderful?" I'd shaken his hand, thanked him for his good work, had no idea I was meeting the man who would spend the next 3 years sleeping with my wife while stealing my money. The text messages started 2 weeks later. I read them chronologically, watching the affair develop from flirtation to obsession, from stolen kisses to detailed plans for a future without me. They'd been careful at first, coded language, vague references, but as time went on, they got sloppy, or maybe just confident that I was too blind, too trusting, too boring to ever notice. They'd laughed about me, about how easy I was to manipulate, about how I believed everything Vanessa told me because I wanted to believe it, because love made people stupid. He actually thanked me for the advice on moving $100K into that high-yield opportunity, David had texted. Doesn't even know it went straight to our Cayman account. God, this is almost too easy. I told you, Vanessa had written back. Smith sees what he wants to see. It's his superpower, willful blindness. I closed the laptop before I could throw it through the window. This is what Marcus had seen. This is what had eaten at him for a year. What he'd carried alone while dying. What he'd tried to protect me from until he couldn't anymore. And he'd been right. Every instinct that told him to warn me had been right. But he'd waited, gathered evidence, made sure I'd believe him when the time came. Because he'd known I'd need proof. Needed to see it in black and white, in their own words, before I could accept that the woman I'd married had never loved me at all. I sat there in that hotel room as night fell over the city, and I felt something shift inside me. The grief, the shock, the hurt, they were still there. But underneath them, growing stronger, was something colder, anger. Not the hot, explosive kind. The calculated kind. The kind that plans. The kind that waits. Marcus had given me evidence. Chen had given me strategy. Now I needed to give myself something else. Resolve. Tomorrow, we'd file for divorce. Tomorrow, the war would officially begin. Tomorrow, Vanessa would learn that her boring, blind, easy-to-manipulate husband had finally opened his eyes, and she was going to wish he hadn't. I slept better that night than I had in days. Not because I was at peace, I wasn't, but because I'd made a decision. I'd stopped being passive, stopped being the victim, stopped being the mark. Marcus had spent his dying days building me armor. The least I could do was wear it. At 6 a.m. Monday morning, my phone rang. Thomas Chen. "You ready?" he asked. I looked around the hotel room, rumpled sheets, empty coffee cups, the detritus of a weekend spent transforming from husband to adversary. "Yes," I said. "I'm ready." "Good. Meet me at the office at 8. We file at 9. By noon, Vanessa will be served with divorce papers. After that, everything changes." "I know. Smith, one more thing. Once we do this, there's no going back. You sure you want to do this? No doubts?" I thought about Marcus's video, about the emails and texts, about what if he's just so sad he can't go on, about 3 years of calculated betrayal wrapped in the performance of love. "No doubts," I said. "Then let's go to war." Thomas Chen's office looked different on a Monday morning. The weekend quiet had been replaced by the hum of activity, phones ringing, printers whirring, associates moving between offices with files tucked under their arms. The machinery of law in motion, indifferent to individual pain, just processing cases like an assembly line processes parts. I sat in Chen's office at 8:15 a.m., watching him review the divorce petition one final time. The document was thick 37 pages of legal language that boiled down to, "My wife betrayed me, stole from me, and possibly planned to kill me, and I want out." Though the actual language was more restrained. Legal documents didn't deal in emotion, just facts, irreconcilable differences, asset dissipation, breach of fiduciary duty. Words that sounded sterile but meant my life was burning down. "This is good," Chen said, setting down the papers. "Tight, clean, no room for her to wiggle. We're asking for full reimbursement of the stolen funds, plus damages, plus legal fees. We're also requesting a restraining order, preventing her from accessing any accounts in your name or disposing of marital assets." Will we get it? The restraining order? Probably, given the evidence of asset dissipation. The reimbursement? Absolutely. The damages? He shrugged. Depends on the judge. But we have a strong case. Marcus made sure of that. Marcus. Always Marcus, reaching back from death to protect me. "What happens after we file?" I asked. "We file at the courthouse at 9. Then we have her served. I've already arranged for a process server to deliver the papers to your house at 11. She'll have 30 days to respond, but practically speaking, things will start moving much faster than that. Her lawyer will contact me, probably by end of day. We'll start the discovery process, the negotiation, dance, all of it. And if she doesn't want to negotiate? Everyone negotiates eventually. But if she fights," Chen leaned back in his chair, "if she fights, this gets ugly. Public. We'll have to present all the evidence in court, the affair, the theft, the emails about your life insurance. Everything Marcus documented becomes part of the public record." She won't want that. No. David Reeves definitely won't want that. His career would be over. No one trusts a financial advisor who steals from clients, even if the client was married to his mistress. Chen's expression was cold. "That's our leverage. They'll want to settle quietly. Keep it all buried. We can use that." I thought about Vanessa opening the door to find a process server with divorce papers. Thought about the moment she realized I knew. Thought about her calling David, her voice tight with panic or rage or calculation. Part of me wished I could see her face when it happened. The rest of me never wanted to see her face again. "Let's do it," I said. The courthouse was downtown, a gray building that looked like justice, personified stern, unyielding, vaguely depressing. Chen and I took the elevator to the 3rd floor, walked past waiting rooms full of other people's broken marriages, other lives falling apart in increments. The filing clerk was a woman in her 60s with reading glasses on a chain and the expression of someone who'd seen it all twice. She took our papers without comment, stamped them, entered them into the system with keystrokes that sounded like small gunshots. "Case number DFL 202-409-847, she said, handing Chen a copy. "Petitioner is Smith Harrison. Respondent is Vanessa Harrison. Service deadline is 30 days from today." 30 days. But Vanessa would know in 2 hours. "Thank you," Chen said. We walked back to the elevator in silence. In the waiting room, a couple sat on opposite sides of the space, not looking at each other. The woman was crying quietly. The man was staring at his phone like it held answers. Two people who'd probably once loved each other, or thought they had, now reduced to opposite sides of a legal filing. That was going to be me and Vanessa. Except we'd never really loved each other. I'd loved her, maybe. She'd loved my bank account. "You okay?" Chen asked as we stepped outside. "I don't know what okay means anymore." "Fair enough." He checked his watch. "The process server should be at your house in about 90 minutes. You want to grab coffee? Wait it out somewhere?" I did. I didn't want to go back to that hotel room. Didn't want to sit alone with my thoughts for 90 minutes while I waited for Vanessa's world to explode. We found a coffee shop 2 blocks from Chen's office, one of those hipster places with exposed brick and baristas who took their craft very seriously. I ordered something I didn't taste, and sat at a corner table while Chen made phone calls, arranging the next steps of the war we just officially declared. My phone sat on the table between us, silent, waiting. At 10:47, Chen said, "Any minute now." At 10:52, my phone rang. Vanessa. Chen and I looked at each other. "That was fast," he said. "Server must have gotten there early. Don't answer." I didn't. Watched it ring through to voicemail, my wife's name on the screen like an accusation. 30 seconds later, a text. "Call me. Now." Then another. "What the fuck, Smith?" Then, "You can't do this. We need to talk." The messages came rapid fire, each one stripping away more of the mask she usually wore. No more loving wife concerned about my grief. This was raw panic, barely controlled rage, the real Vanessa bleeding through. "You're making a huge mistake. This is about Marcus, isn't it? You're not thinking clearly. I love you. Please, just call me. Call me." Chen was reading over my shoulder. "She's spiraling. Good. Good means she's off balance. People make mistakes when they're panicking. She'll call David next, probably say something stupid over the phone. If she does, we'll get it in discovery." Another text. "Fine. Don't call. But you'll regret this. I promise you'll regret this." I stared at that last message. Was it a threat? A prediction? Or just the desperate flailing of someone whose con had been exposed? My phone rang again. David Reeves this time. "Definitely don't answer that one," Chen said. I didn't, but I saved the voicemail when it came through. Per Chen's instructions, evidence. Everything was evidence now. Over the next hour, my phone became a weapon. 23 calls from Vanessa, 6 from David. Texts that ranged from pleading to threatening to bizarrely practical. "We should talk before lawyers get involved. This will cost us both so much money." Us. Like we were still a team. Like she hadn't spent 3 years stealing from me and planning my convenient death. At 12:15, my phone rang with a number I didn't recognize. I showed Chen. "That's probably her lawyer," he said. "Answer it. Be polite. But don't say anything substantive. Refer them to me." I answered. "Smith Harrison." "Mr. Harrison, this is Janet Kowalski. I'm an attorney representing Vanessa Harrison. I understand you filed for divorce this morning." Her voice was professional, carefully neutral. The voice of someone who'd done this 1,000 times, who knew all the moves in this particular dance. "That's correct. Mr. Harrison, I'm hoping we can resolve this amicably. Perhaps you and Mrs. Harrison could meet, discuss things privately, before this escalates." All communication should go through my attorney, Thomas Chen. I gave her his number. "Of course. But Mr. Harrison, as a personal matter, your wife is very upset. She says this is coming out of nowhere, that you've been struggling with grief and perhaps aren't in the right state of mind to make major decisions. She's concerned about you." The audacity. The sheer fucking audacity. "Ms. Kowalski, I'm in perfect mental health. I'm also done talking. Contact my attorney." I hung up before she could respond. Chen was smiling. Well done. Cold. Professional. Didn't give her anything to work with. She said Vanessa thinks I'm not in my right mind. Standard strategy. They'll try to paint you as unstable, claim the grief over Marcus has made you irrational. That's why we have the evidence. Hard to claim someone's crazy when they have bank records and text messages proving fraud. My phone rang again. "Vanessa." I silenced it. "How long does this go on?" I asked. "The calling? Could be hours, could be days. Eventually she'll realize you're not going to engage, and she'll stop, or her lawyer will tell her to stop. Either way, don't respond. Let her scream into the void." I watched my phone light up over and over with her calls. Each ring felt like a small victory. She was losing control. The calm, collected, perfect Vanessa was cracking, and it showed. This was what Marcus had wanted me to see, not just the evidence of her betrayal, but this. The moment the mask slipped, the moment the real person underneath was forced into the light. By 2 p.m., the calls had slowed. By 3, they'd stopped entirely. Chen's phone rang instead. Janet Kowalski, Vanessa's lawyer. I watched Chen's face as he listened, professional, unmoved. When he spoke, his voice was courteous ice. Miss Kowalski, my client has made his position clear. He wants a divorce. He wants full reimbursement of marital funds that were transferred without his knowledge or consent. He wants nothing from Mrs. Harrison except what's legally his. A pause while he listened. Yes, I'm aware that divorce is emotionally difficult. I'm also aware that your client engaged in systematic asset dissipation over a period of 2.5 years. We have documentation. We're prepared to present it in court, if necessary. Another pause. Chen's expression didn't change, but something in his eyes sharpened. I see. Well, if Mrs. Harrison wishes to negotiate a settlement, we're open to that discussion. But Mr. Harrison will not be meeting with her privately. All communication goes through counsel. If you want to discuss terms, send over a proposal and we'll review it. He hung up, looked at me. She wants to meet with you, face to face, says there are things you don't understand, that it's not what it looks like, that she can explain everything. What did you tell her? That you're not interested. That explanation time is over. He leaned forward. Smith, listen to me carefully. At some point, maybe today, maybe tomorrow, Vanessa is going to show up somewhere you are. The hotel, if she figures out where you're staying. My office, somewhere. And she's going to try to talk to you. She'll cry. She'll apologize. She'll tell you she loves you. She'll say whatever she thinks will work. I won't believe her. I know, but I need you to not engage at all. Don't argue with her. Don't defend yourself. Don't try to make her understand. Just walk away, because anything you say to her can and will be used against you in court. Even if I'm just defending myself, especially then, she'll record it, take it out of context, claim you were threatening or unstable. I've seen it 100 times. The cleanest break is no contact. None. You communicate through me, period. I nodded, but the thought of Vanessa showing up made my skin crawl. Not because I was afraid of her, though maybe I should be, given that email about life insurance, but because I didn't trust myself. Didn't trust that I wouldn't ask her why. Wouldn't demand to know how she could do this, how she could sleep beside me for 6 years while planning to rob me blind. And I knew that whatever answer she gave would just be another lie, another performance, another carefully calculated response designed to manipulate me into doing what she wanted. What do you think she'll do next? I asked. Hard to say. Depends how desperate she is, how much David is freaking out, whether her lawyer can control her. Best case, she accepts that it's over and we negotiate a settlement. Worst case what? Chen's expression was grim. Worst case, she accelerates whatever plan she had. If she was thinking about staging an accident before, finding out you're leaving might push her to act, especially if she thinks this is her last chance to collect that life insurance. The coffee in my stomach turned to acid. You think she'd actually try? I think desperate people do desperate things. I think you should be very, very careful until this is resolved. Don't go anywhere alone. Don't meet her under any circumstances. Don't drink anything she might have access to. Don't trust anything. I finished. I get it. But did I? Could I really internalize that my wife, the woman I'd woken up next to this morning, the woman whose coffee preferences I knew, whose quirks and habits were woven into my daily life, could I really accept that she might actually try to kill me? Marcus had thought so. He'd thought it enough to document everything, to warn me, to make sure I had the tools to protect myself. What if he's just so sad he can't go on? Yeah, I could accept it. I spent the rest of Monday afternoon in Chen's office, going over strategy and timeline and all the bureaucratic machinery of ending a marriage. It was strangely calming, the procedural nature of it. Forms to fill out, documents to review, discovery requests to prepare. The law didn't care about my feelings. It just cared about facts, and we had plenty of those. At 5 p.m., Chen's phone rang again. He answered, listened, then put it on speaker. Don't care what your client says, Janet Kowalski was saying, her professional veneer cracking slightly. My client is willing to return half the transferred funds if we can reach a settlement without going to court. She maintains that the transfers were for investment purposes that both parties benefited from. With all due respect, Chen interrupted, your client transferred $847,000 into offshore accounts in her maiden name without my client's knowledge. That's not investment strategy. That's theft. That's your interpretation. My client's interpretation is different. Then we'll let a judge interpret. I'm sure the court will be very interested in reviewing the text messages between Mrs. Harrison and David Reeves discussing the transfers, particularly the ones where they laugh about how easy it was to deceive Mr. Harrison. Silence on the other end. Then, you have texts? We have everything, Miss Kowalski. Texts, emails, bank records, photographs, investigator reports. Your client's affair is documented. Her theft is documented. Her discussions about my client's life insurance policy are documented. Life insurance? Kowalski's voice had changed. She hadn't known about that part. What are you talking about? Chen looked at me. I nodded. We have an email, Chen said carefully, in which your client discussed the financial benefits of my client's death. Specifically, she suggested that a grief-driven suicide would be more financially advantageous than divorce. Would you like me to send you a copy? The silence on the other end was absolute. When Kowalski spoke again, her voice was tight. Send it. I need to speak with my client. Take your time. We're in no rush. Chen hung up, looked at me. She didn't know. Vanessa didn't tell her own lawyer about the life insurance discussion. That's either very stupid or very calculated. What's the difference? If she's stupid, she didn't think we'd find it. If she's calculated, she's keeping her options open. Either way, her lawyer just learned that this case is much worse than she thought. He started typing. I'm sending her the email now. Let's see what happens. What happened was nothing for 2 hours. Then, at 7:23 p.m., my phone lit up with a text from Vanessa. We need to talk. Please. I can explain the email. It's not what you think. I showed Chen. Don't respond. She's panicking. Her lawyer probably told her how bad that email looks, how it could be construed as conspiracy to commit murder. She's trying to control the damage. Another text. I never would have hurt you. It was just talk. Venting. I was angry. Please believe me. Then, I love you, Smith. I know you don't believe me, but I do. I always have. I watched the messages come through and felt nothing. Not anger, not sadness, not even satisfaction that she was scared. Just nothing. Like she was a stranger whose problems didn't concern me. You good? Chen asked. Yeah, I said. I'm good. And I was. For the first time since I'd watched Marcus's video, I felt steady, grounded, like I'd made it through the worst of the storm and was standing on solid ground again. The war was just beginning. I knew that. There would be court dates and negotiations, and probably more attempts by Vanessa to manipulate her way back into my life. David would lawyer up. Things would get ugly. But I had Marcus's evidence. I had Chen's expertise. And I had something else. Something I'd lost somewhere along the way in my marriage, and was just now finding again. My spine. Marcus had given me that. His last gift. The truth, yes, but also the courage to act on it. You're stronger than you think, little brother. Maybe I was. Maybe I'd always been, and I just needed someone to remind me. My phone buzzed again. Another text from Vanessa. Please, just 5 minutes. Let me explain. I turned the phone face down on Chen's desk. I'm ready to go, I said. Chen nodded. Hotel. Yeah, hotel. He walked me to the elevator. Before I got in, he put a hand on my shoulder. You did good today, Smith. Your brother would be proud. The elevator doors closed on whatever expression was on my face. I didn't trust myself to speak. But Chen was right. Marcus would be proud. And tomorrow, we'd keep fighting. The hotel room felt smaller on Tuesday morning. Not physically, same beige walls, same generic furniture, same view of the parking lot where rain pooled in the potholes like small graves, but smaller in the sense that the walls were closing in, That staying hidden felt less like safety and more like cowardice. I'd been awake since 4 a.m., scrolling through Marcus's evidence files again, each document a fresh cut. At some point during the night, I'd moved past anger into something colder. Archaeological curiosity, maybe. Studying the remains of my marriage like it was an ancient civilization, trying to understand how people could build something so elaborate on such rotten foundations. There was a text message I kept coming back to, dated 14 months ago. Vanessa to David. He asked me today if I wanted kids, just out of nowhere, over breakfast. Do you think we should start trying? I almost laughed. Imagine bringing his boring genes into the world. Imagine being tied to him for 18 more years. I just smiled and said, soon, maybe. Let's wait until our finances are more stable. He believed me. He always believes me. I'd wanted children. We'd talked about it early in our marriage, before I'd learned to stop bringing it up, because every conversation ended with, not yet, or soon, or let's wait. I'd thought she was being practical, thoughtful, making sure we were ready. She'd just been running out the clock on a con. My phone buzzed. Alicia, morning. I know you said you needed space, but I really think you should have Marcus's letter. Can I bring it to you? Wherever you are. I stared at the message. Part of me wanted to keep hiding, keep avoiding anything that might crack the numbness I'd built around myself. But Marcus had written me a letter, his last words, beyond the video. And I owed it to him, to both of us, to read them. I'm at the Marriott downtown, I typed. Room 447, registered under James Miller. 3 dots appeared. Then, be there in 30. Alicia looked tired when I opened the door. Not the acute exhaustion of new grief that had settled into something chronic. The permanent weariness of someone learning to live with a hole in their life that would never fill. Hey, she said, pulling me into a hug before I could speak. She smelled like coffee and kids' shampoo, and something floral I couldn't place. Normal things. Living things. Hey, yourself. She pulled back, studied my face. You look like shit. Thanks. I mean it. When's the last time you slept? I sleep. That's not what I asked. She pushed past me into the room, taking in the unmade bed, the laptop open on the desk, the evidence of a man coming apart in increments. Smith. What's going on? And don't tell me nothing. You're in a hotel, registered under a fake name. I closed the door, leaned against it, tried to figure out how to explain. I left Vanessa, I said finally. Alicia's expression didn't change. Okay, that's it? Just okay? Did you want me to be surprised? She sat on the edge of the bed. Smith, I've been watching you disappear into that marriage for years. Marcus saw it too. We used to talk about it, actually. About how you'd changed, how you'd become smaller. Why didn't you say anything? Because you loved her, or you thought you did. And who were we to tell you that your marriage was making you miserable? She paused. But I'm glad you left. I'm glad you finally saw it. Saw what? That she was wrong for you. That she was... Alicia stopped herself. Marcus's letter will explain better than I can. He wrote it a week before he died. Made me promise to give it to you after you knew. After I knew what? After you watched the video. She pulled an envelope from her purse. Thick, cream-colored, my name, written on the front, in Marcus's shaky handwriting. He told me there was a video, that Richard would give it to you 2 months after he passed. He said once you'd seen it, you'd need this too. She held out the letter. I took it with hands that weren't quite steady. He loved you so much, Alicia said softly. Even at the end, when he could barely stay awake, he was worried about you, about what would happen when he was gone, and couldn't protect you anymore. I looked down at the envelope, felt the weight of it. Last words from a dead brother, reaching across the void one more time. Thank you, I said, for bringing this. Do you want me to stay while you read it? I did. I didn't want to be alone with whatever Marcus had written, whatever truth he'd been too weak to say out loud. Please. Please. She nodded and moved to the chair by the window, giving me space, but staying close. I sat on the bed and opened the envelope carefully, like it might disintegrate if I wasn't gentle enough. Inside were 3 pages, front and back, covered in Marcus's handwriting. The first page was steady. The last page was barely legible, written when his hands were failing, but his mind was still fighting. I started reading. Smith. If you're reading this, you've seen the video. You know about Vanessa. You know about David. You know about the money and the plans and the life insurance email that kept me awake for the last month of my life. I'm sorry. God, I'm so sorry. Not for telling you you needed to know, but for not telling you sooner. For waiting until I was dying to be brave enough to show you the truth. I found out about the affair by accident. 13 months ago, I ran into David at a restaurant downtown. He was with a blonde woman, and they were sitting very close, and something about the way he looked at her made me stop, made me look closer. It was Vanessa. They didn't see me. I was across the room, behind a column. Just another tired surgeon grabbing takeout between shifts. I watched them for maybe 3 minutes. Watched him touch her face. Watched her lean in and kiss him. Nothing innocent about it. Nothing that could be explained away. I followed them. I know that sounds crazy, but I did. I followed them to a hotel 4 blocks away. Watched them check in. Watched them disappear into an elevator, his hand on her lower back, possessive. I sat in my car in that parking lot for 2 hours, Smith. Just sat there, trying to decide what to do. Do I call you? Do I take a photo? Do I confront her? I did nothing. I went home to Alicia and Sophie and Max, and I didn't say a word. Because I hoped maybe it was a one-time thing. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe I'd misunderstood. But I couldn't let it go. So I hired an investigator, and that's when I learned it wasn't a mistake. It was a lifestyle. 2.5 years of hotels and lies and your money being moved while you were at work, trusting them both. The investigator found the offshore accounts, found the text messages, found everything. And I still didn't tell you. I told myself I needed to be sure, that I needed ironclad proof before I could blow up your life. But the truth is, I was scared. Scared of what it would do to you. Scared of being wrong. Scared of being the messenger who destroyed your marriage for nothing. Then I got sick. The diagnosis was bad from the start, you know that. Stage 4. Inoperable. Maybe 6 months, probably less. And suddenly I didn't have time to be scared anymore. I had to make sure you'd be okay after I was gone. That's when I found the life insurance email. Smith, I need you to understand something. When I read that email, when I saw Vanessa suggesting that your death would be more financially convenient than divorce, I felt something I'd never felt before. Absolute, murderous rage. Not the hot kind. The cold kind. The kind that plans. I wanted to kill her. I thought about it, actually. Thought about using my medical knowledge, my access to drugs, my understanding of how bodies fail. I could have made it look natural. Could have protected you in a way that didn't require you to know what she was. But I didn't. Because I'm not that person. And because you deserve to know the truth, even if it hurt. Especially because it hurt. So I documented everything instead. Made copies. Built a case. Set up this whole elaborate posthumous reveal because I was too much of a coward to tell you to your face while I still had breath in my body. By the time I had everything ready, I was in hospice. You were there every day, reading to me, just sitting with me, being my brother. And I wanted to tell you so badly. Wanted to grab your hand and say, leave her, she's poison, get out, before it's too late. But I was afraid you wouldn't believe me. Afraid the morphine had made me paranoid. Afraid you'd think I was confused. I needed you to see it all, clear-eyed, with proof you couldn't deny. I'm sorry it had to be this way. I'm sorry I made you wait. I'm sorry I died and left you alone to deal with this mess. But Smith, little brother, I need you to know something. This isn't your fault. You didn't miss the signs because you were stupid or weak. You missed them because you loved her. And love makes us vulnerable. Love makes us trust when we should question. That's not a flaw. That's what makes us human. Vanessa is good at what she does. She studied you, learned your weak spots. Became exactly who you needed her to be. That's not love, that's hunting. And you were prey, but you're not anymore. I've given you everything you need to protect yourself. Use it. Don't let guilt or nostalgia or some misguided sense of fairness make you soft. She wasn't fair to you. She doesn't deserve fairness back. Get out. Get safe. Get angry if you need to. But most importantly, get free. There's something else I need to tell you. And this is the hard part. The part I almost didn't write because I wasn't sure you'd believe me, even with proof. I think Vanessa has done this before. The investigator found records. Before she met you, she was married. Briefly, to a man named Robert Chen, a software engineer in Seattle. The marriage lasted 18 months. He died in a car accident 3 months before the divorce was finalized. She inherited everything. $400,000 in life insurance, plus his 401k, plus his half of their condo. She sold it all within 6 months and disappeared into a new city with a new name. Her maiden name isn't Pierce, Smith. It's Peterson. She changed it legally 2 years before you met her. I don't know why. The investigator couldn't find any obvious reason. No criminal record, no bankruptcy, no scandal. Just a quiet name change and a move to a new city. I can't prove she killed Robert Chen. The police ruled it an accident, wet roads, late night, he lost control. But the investigator found something. Robert had filed for divorce 3 weeks before he died. He'd discovered Vanessa was having an affair with his business partner. He'd moved half their money into a separate account. 2 weeks later, he was dead. I'm not saying this to scare you. I'm saying it so you understand what you're dealing with. Vanessa isn't just a gold digger or a cheater. She's a predator. And predators don't stop hunting because they've been caught. They just get more careful. Please, Smith, be careful. Be paranoid. Don't trust anything she says or does until this is completely finished. Don't meet her alone. Don't drink anything she might have access to. Don't go anywhere isolated. I know this sounds extreme. I know you're thinking I'm being dramatic, that Vanessa wouldn't actually hurt you. But Robert Chen probably thought that too. I love you, little brother. 7 minutes older and still trying to protect you. Some things never change. Use the evidence. Trust Thomas Chen, he's a good lawyer, and he knows everything. And remember that being free is worth whatever pain it takes to get there. You're gonna be okay. Better than okay. You're gonna remember who you were before her, before you learned to make yourself smaller to fit in her world. That Smith, the real one, he's still in there. And I can't wait to see him again, even if I'll only be watching from wherever dead brothers watch from. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm so proud of you. Marcus, P.S. Tell Sophie and Max about me sometimes. The good stuff, the dumb stuff. How I used to make you laugh until you couldn't breathe. How we were two halves of the same person before life made us different shapes. I want them to know their uncle. I want them to know we were brothers first, best friends second, and that nothing, not death, not time, not distance, ever changed that. I read it twice. Then a third time, the words blurring as something hot and sharp built behind my eyes. Alicia was crying quietly in her chair. She'd probably read this already, probably knew everything Marcus had written, but it still hurt to hear it again, to be reminded of what we'd lost. He found out she'd been married before? I said finally, my voice rough. He told me, 2 weeks before he died. He was so angry, Smith, so scared for you. He made me promise that if anything happened to you, anything suspicious, I'd make sure the police looked at Vanessa. He documented everything about Robert Chen, too. It's probably in the files he left you. I pulled out my laptop, opened the USB drive, found a folder labeled Background Research. Inside were investigator reports, newspaper articles about Robert Chen's death, marriage and death certificates, financial records. Everything Marcus had written was true. Robert Chen, dead at 34 in a single-car accident on a wet road. Vanessa inheriting everything. A divorce filing 3 weeks prior. An affair with a business partner, different man, same pattern. Jesus Christ, I breathed. He couldn't prove she killed him, but the pattern. Alicia trailed off. Smith, you need to be really careful. If Marcus is right, if Vanessa has done this before, then I'm not just going through a divorce, I'm escaping a serial killer. The words sounded insane, but they also felt true. Felt like they explained everything. The cold calculation, the perfect performance, the complete absence of genuine feeling. Not just a cheater or a gold digger. Something else. Something that looked human but operated on different principles. My phone rang. Thomas Chen. Yeah? We have a problem, he said without preamble. Vanessa showed up at your house this morning. She's been there for 2 hours, refusing to leave. The neighbors called the police. They can't force her out since it's technically her residence too, but they asked her to leave and she won't. So she's making a scene, crying, telling anyone who'll listen that you abandoned her, that you're having a breakdown, that she's worried about you. It's a performance, Smith. She's building a narrative. What kind of narrative? The kind where you're the unstable one, where you're the one making irrational decisions because of grief. She's laying groundwork in case this goes to trial, getting witnesses to say she's the concerned wife, and you're the one falling apart. I thought about Marcus's letter. Predators don't stop hunting because they've been caught. They just get more careful. What do I do? Nothing. You do absolutely nothing. You stay away from that house, you don't engage with her, you let her perform for empty rooms. Eventually, she'll realize it's not working, and she'll leave. And if she doesn't, then we get a restraining order. But that's a last resort. For now, we just let her burn energy spinning her wheels. I hung up and looked at Alicia. She'd heard enough to understand. She's at your house? Refusing to leave. Making a scene. That's... Alicia paused. That's what someone does when they're losing control. When their plan is falling apart, and they're getting desperate. Marcus said, desperate people do desperate things. He did, and he wanted you to be careful. She stood, came over, put her hand on my shoulder. Smith, I need you to promise me something. Promise me you'll listen to Marcus. Promise me you won't do anything brave, or stupid, or noble. Promise me you'll stay safe until this is over. I looked at her, my sister-in-law, my brother's widow, the woman raising his children alone because cancer doesn't care about fairness. She'd lost Marcus. She couldn't lose me too. I promise. She hugged me then, fierce and tight. Good, because Sophie and Max need their uncle, and I need my brother-in-law. We're all that's left of Marcus now. We have to take care of each other. After she left, I sat with Marcus's letter for a long time, reading it over and over, memorizing the parts that mattered. You're going to remember who you were before her. Being free is worth whatever pain it takes to get there. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm so proud of you. Outside, rain continued to fall. Inside, something in my chest that had been clenched tight for 6 years finally started to loosen. Marcus had given me armor. Now, he'd given me something else. Permission to be angry. Permission to fight back. Permission to remember that I'd been someone before Vanessa, and I could be someone after her. Someone stronger. Someone who didn't apologize for taking up space. Someone who survived. Wednesday morning, I made a decision that Thomas Chen wouldn't approve of. I was going back to the house. Not to see Vanessa. She'd finally left Tuesday night, after the police had been called a second time, after the neighbors had stopped pretending to be sympathetic and started being openly annoyed. But to get my things, my life, the pieces of myself I'd left behind when I'd walked out 3 days ago with nothing but a duffel bag and my brother's dying warning. Chen had said to stay away, to let him handle the asset retrieval through legal channels, to not give Vanessa any opportunity to manipulate or threaten or do whatever it was that desperate predators did when their prey escaped. But Marcus's letter had changed something in me, had reminded me that I'd been someone before her, someone who didn't hide in hotel rooms, someone who didn't let fear make his decisions. You're stronger than you think. Time to prove it. I drove to the house at 10 a.m., knowing Vanessa taught Pilates on Wednesday mornings, knowing she'd be gone, at least for a few hours, knowing I could get in and out without confrontation. The neighborhood looked the same: manicured lawns, expensive cars, the kind of wealth that whispered its superiority. Our house sat at the end of the cul-de-sac, all modern angles and designer landscaping, looking exactly like the life we'd built together, perfect on the outside, rotting within. I parked in the driveway, sat there for a moment, gathering myself. This house had been my home for 4 years. We'd picked it out together, or I'd thought we had. Now I realized Vanessa had picked it, the location, the layout, the price point, and I'd just agreed, because that's what I'd always done. Agreed, accommodated, made myself smaller. My key still worked. The door swung open to reveal a space that looked both familiar and alien. Our living room, our furniture, our accumulated things, but not our life. Never our life. Just the stage dressing for a long con. The house was quiet in that particular way. That meant truly empty. No Vanessa hiding upstairs, waiting to ambush me with tears or threats. Just silence and the ghost of a marriage that had never been real. I started in my office. Personal documents, first birth certificate, passport, tax returns, the deed to my parents' graves, things that couldn't be replaced. Then my grandfather's watch from the desk drawer, the one Marcus had wanted but had let me have because I was 7 minutes younger and he'd always been generous that way. Photos. That was harder. Photos of Marcus and me as kids. Of our parents, long dead. Of med school graduation and my college graduation, and all the moments before Vanessa when life had been simpler, if not easier. I left the wedding photos. Left anything with her in it. Those memories belonged to someone else now. Some other Smith who'd believed in love and trust and all the things that seemed quaint from this side of betrayal. I was loading boxes into my car when I heard it. A car door slamming. Footsteps on the driveway. Vanessa. She stood there in yoga pants and a sports bra, her hair pulled back, her face without makeup. Even now, even knowing what I knew, she looked beautiful. That was her weapon. That had always been her weapon. Smith. My name in her mouth sounded like an accusation and a plea. You came home. This isn't home anymore. I'm just getting my things. We need to talk. We don't. All communication goes through our lawyers. I moved to get another box from the house, but she stepped in front of me, blocking the door. Close enough that I could smell her perfume, the same one she'd worn on our first date, the one I'd bought her for Christmas every year because she'd said she loved it. Lies. All of it. She'd probably hated it. Probably threw out the bottles and bought what she actually liked. Probably laughed with David about the boring husband who couldn't even get perfume right. Please, she said, and there were tears in her eyes. Perfect tears. The kind that made you want to comfort her, want to fix whatever was wrong. Please just listen. For 5 minutes. That's all I'm asking. I've listened enough. I've heard everything I need to hear. You don't understand. That video, whatever Marcus showed you, it's out of context. He was sick, Smith. He was confused. He saw things that weren't there. The audacity. The sheer fucking audacity to blame Marcus. To use his death, his illness, as cover for her lies. Marcus wasn't confused. Marcus had bank records, text messages, emails, photos, 2.5 years of documentation that shows exactly what you are. Her expression shifted. The tears stopped like someone had flipped a switch. What I am? You want to know what I am? I'm the woman who stayed with you when you were boring and needy and so wrapped up in your dead brother that you could barely function. I'm the woman who smiled through dinner parties with your mediocre friends and pretended to care about your mediocre job and your mediocre life. There it was. The mask slipping. The real Vanessa bleeding through. I gave you 6 years, she continued, voice rising. 6 years of pretending you were interesting. 6 years of performing the perfect wife while you moped around being sad about Marcus and sad about your parents and sad about everything. Do you know how exhausting it is to be married to someone who's always grieving? Is that when you decided to steal from me? When I became too sad to monitor the bank accounts? I didn't steal. That was our money. Community property. I just moved it somewhere safe. An offshore account in your maiden name. Except Pierce isn't even your maiden name, is it, Vanessa? Or should I call you Peterson? She went very still. You don't know what you're talking about. I know about Robert Chen. I know about the car accident. I know about the life insurance payout 3 weeks after he filed for divorce. I took a step toward her, and she stepped back. Good.
Let her be afraid for once. I know you've done this before, and I know you were planning to do it again.
Robert was an accident. Was he? Because from where I'm standing, it looks like a pattern. Find a man with money, marry him, steal what you can, and when he gets suspicious, stage an accident, collect the insurance, move on to the next mark. Her face had gone pale, but her eyes were calculating, weighing options, deciding what lie to tell next. You can't prove any of that. Actually, I can. Marcus made sure of it. Every document, every communication, every financial transaction, it's all documented, all ready for court, all ready to show a judge exactly what you are. No one will believe you. You're having a breakdown, grief-stricken, paranoid. Your own wife will testify to that. So will David. David. I laughed, and it sounded harsh even to my own ears. Your financial advisor boyfriend who helped you steal from me? Yeah, I'm sure his testimony will be really compelling, right before he loses his license and probably goes to jail for fraud. You're bluffing. Am I? Want to test that theory? Want to go to court and see what happens when a judge reads the email where you suggested my death would be more convenient than divorce? She lunged then, not to hit me to grab my phone from my pocket, fast enough that I almost didn't react in time. Almost. I caught her wrist, held it firm but not hard enough to hurt. Don't give me the phone. No, give me the fucking phone. She was screaming now, all pretense gone, just raw fury and desperation. The woman I'd married had never screamed, had never raised her voice, had been all soft edges and gentle persuasion. This was someone else, something else. You need to leave, I said quietly. You need to get in your car and drive away. And you need to understand that this is over. The con is done. You lost. She yanked her arm free, stumbled back. Her face was flushed, her chest heaving, her hair falling out of its ponytail. She looked unhinged, dangerous. I could ruin you, she said. I could tell everyone you're abusive, that you threatened me, that I'm afraid of you. One call to the police, and your life is over. Go ahead, call them. I'd love to explain why I'm afraid of my wife, why I had to leave my own house, why my brother spent his dying days documenting your crimes. I pulled out my phone. Actually, let me call them for you. I started dialing. Didn't make it past 9 to 1 before she snatched the phone from my hand and threw it. It hit the driveway, screen shattering with a sound like breaking ice. We both stared at it. That's destruction of property, I said calmly. That's a crime, Vanessa. You just committed a crime in front of me. Fuck you. No. Fuck you. Fuck you for the last 6 years. Fuck you for making me think I was boring when really I was just normal and you were a predator. Fuck you for Marcus dying while trying to save me from you. And fuck you for standing here trying to manipulate me when we both know I'm done being manipulated. She slapped me then, hard enough that my head snapped to the side, hard enough that I tasted blood. I straightened slowly, touching my lip where it had split, looked at the blood on my fingers, looked at her. Feel better? No. And suddenly she was crying again, real tears this time. Messy, ugly tears. No, I don't feel better. Nothing feels better. I had a plan. It was working. And then your brother had to go and die and ruin everything. Marcus died of cancer. He didn't ruin anything. He saved me. He turned you against me. No, he showed me who you really were. There's a difference. I bent down, picked up my shattered phone. The screen was destroyed, but it still worked. I'm leaving now. I'm taking my things, and I'm never coming back. You can have the house. You can have the furniture. You can have whatever's left. But you don't get me. You don't get my money. And you sure as fuck don't get to play victim. I started loading boxes again. She watched, crying silently, not moving to help or stop me. When I had everything in my car, I turned to face her one last time. Did you ever love me? Even a little? She looked at me for a long moment, and for the first time since I'd known her, I saw something like honesty in her face. "No," she said quietly. "I thought I might, at first. But no, you were always just a job." The truth should have hurt more than it did, should have broken something that wasn't already broken. But mostly, I just felt tired. "Thank you," I said, for finally being honest. I got in my car, started the engine, looked at her standing in the driveway of our house, her house now looking lost and furious and defeated all at once, and I drove away. I made it 3 blocks before I had to pull over. My hands were shaking, my lip was still bleeding, my phone was destroyed, and I was crying. Huge gasping sobs that felt like they were tearing me apart from the inside. Not for Vanessa, not for the marriage, but for everything. For Marcus, for the 6 years I'd lost, for the person I'd been who'd trusted and loved and believed in things that weren't real, for the fact that evil didn't look like a monster, it looked like a beautiful woman in yoga pants who could cry on command and smile while plotting your death. I don't know how long I sat there, long enough that a concerned neighbor knocked on my window and asked if I was okay. I nodded, said I was fine, waited for her to leave before I started crying again. When I finally had myself under control, I drove to Chen's office. He took one look at my face, the split lip, the red eyes, the barely contained fury, and said, "What the hell happened?" I went to the house. She was there. We had a conversation. A conversation that involved her hitting you? She threw my phone. Then yeah, she hit me. Chen's expression went from concerned to calculating. "Did anyone see this?" "I don't think so." "Why?" "Because that's assault. We can file charges." He was already pulling out forms, and it gives us grounds for an emergency restraining order. No judge will deny it if you're standing there with a split lip. I don't want to file charges. Why the hell not? Because I stopped, thought about it. Why didn't I want to? Because some outdated sense of chivalry? Because men don't press charges when women hit them? Because I still felt some misguided loyalty to the woman who'd tried to destroy me? Because it feels petty, I said finally. Like I'm escalating when I should be taking the high road. The high road? Chen's voice was incredulous. "Smith, she hit you. She destroyed your property. She's been stealing from you for years. She possibly killed her first husband. When exactly do you get off the high road and start fighting back?" Marcus's voice in my head. "Don't let guilt or nostalgia or some misguided sense of fairness make you soft. She wasn't fair to you. She doesn't deserve fairness back. File the charges," I said, "and the restraining order. Do whatever you need to do." Chen nodded grimly. "Good. Now, tell me everything that happened. Every word she said, every action she took. I need it all." So I told him. The confrontation, the admissions, the violence, the moment she'd finally been honest and admitted I'd never been anything but a mark. Chen made notes, his expression growing darker with each detail. "She's unraveling," he said when I finished. "The calm, collected Vanessa is gone. What's left is desperate and dangerous. You're lucky she only hit you. It could have been much worse." She wanted my phone, tried to grab it. I think she thought I had evidence on it. "Did you?" "Did you?" "Everything's backed up. The phone's just hardware. Marcus made sure everything important was stored in multiple places." "Smart man. Your brother." "Yeah, he was." Chen started typing. "Okay, here's what happens now. We file assault charges. We get the restraining order. She won't be allowed within 500 feet of you. We expedite the divorce. Use her violence as grounds for immediate separation of assets. And we prepare for her to do something stupid." "Stupid how?" "People who are backed into corners don't make good decisions. She's lost control of the narrative, lost access to you, lost her chance at the money. She's going to lash out. Might be at you, might be at David, might be at herself. We just need to be ready." I touched my split lip, winced. How do you get ready for someone who's already tried to destroy you? You survive, and you document everything, every contact, every threat, every attempt at manipulation. You build a case so tight that no judge, No jury, no one can look at it and think you're anything other than the victim here. I don't want to be a victim. You're not. You're a survivor. There's a difference. Chen looked at me seriously. Your brother gave you the tools. I'm giving you the strategy. But you need to give yourself permission to win, to come out of this on the other side stronger than you went in. Can you do that? I thought about Marcus's letter, about his dying wish, about the brother who'd loved me enough to spend his last days making sure I'd survive. Yes, I said, I can do that. Good. Then let's get to work. By Wednesday evening, the restraining order was filed. By Thursday morning, it was approved. By Thursday afternoon, Vanessa had been served. Her lawyer called Chen, furious. This is harassment. Your client confronted my client at her home. His home? Chen interrupted. Community property. He has every right to be there. And your client committed assault. We have photos of his injuries. Would you like to see them? A long pause. Then, we'd like to discuss a settlement. I'm sure you would. Email me a proposal and we'll consider it. That was it. The beginning of the end. Vanessa's lawyer knew they were beaten. Knew that going to trial would expose everything. The affair, the theft, the violence, possibly Robert Chen's convenient accident, knew that the only way out was negotiation. The war wasn't over. But we'd won the first real battle. I sat in Chen's office, my split lip starting to heal, my broken phone replaced, my belongings safe in a storage unit, and I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Hope, not for reconciliation, not for understanding, not for any of the things I'd wanted 3 days ago. Hope that I'd survive this. Hope that I'd be okay. Hope that Marcus had been right, that the real me was still in there somewhere, waiting to remember who he'd been before her. Thank you, I told Chen, for everything. Don't thank me yet. We've still got a long road ahead. I know, but I can see the end of it now. Marcus gave me the map. You're helping me walk the path. That's enough. Chen smiled slightly. Your brother would be proud of you. I hope so. I know so. He told me, the first time he came to see me. He said, my brother's going to come through this stronger. He just doesn't know it yet. He had faith in you, Smith. Even when you didn't have it in yourself. 7 minutes older and still protecting me. Still believing in me. Still loving me enough to save me from myself. I love you. I'm sorry. And I'm so proud of you. I'm proud of you too, Marcus, I said quietly. Wherever dead brothers watched from, I hoped he heard me. The settlement came faster than expected. 3 weeks after the restraining order, 2 weeks after Vanessa's lawyer saw the full evidence file, 1 week after David Reeves resigned from his firm amid an ethics investigation. We met in Chen's conference room, me on one side, Chen beside me. Across the table, Vanessa and her lawyer Janet Kowalski, who looked like she'd aged 5 years since taking this case. Vanessa wouldn't look at me. She'd lost weight, I noticed. Her perfect composure had cracked into something harder, brittle. The mask was gone. What remained was just a woman who'd gambled and lost. My client agrees to return all transferred funds, Kowalski said, sliding papers across the table. $847,000 plus interest. She'll sign over her claim to the house. She agrees to the divorce terms with no contest. Chen reviewed the documents, his expression neutral. And in exchange, we don't pursue criminal charges for the assault, and we agree to a confidentiality clause. Neither party discusses the circumstances of the divorce publicly. I looked at Vanessa. Finally, she met my eyes. There was nothing there. No remorse, no anger, just emptiness. Like someone had scooped out whatever made her human and left only the shell. She wants to protect David, I said. That's what this is about. Keep it quiet so his career survives. Kowalski didn't deny it. My client believes this settlement is fair to both parties. Fair. The word tasted bitter. 6 years of lies. A dead husband in her past. Plans to kill me for insurance money. And she thinks returning stolen money is fair? Smith, Chen said quietly, warning me. But I was done being warned. Done being careful. You almost killed me, I said to Vanessa. Not physically, though. That email suggests you considered it. But you killed who I was. Spent 6 years making me smaller, quieter, less. And for what? Money you're giving back anyway? She finally spoke. I'm sorry. Her voice was flat, rehearsed. The words meant nothing. No, you're not. You're sorry you got caught. There's a difference. Does it matter? She looked at me directly now. You won, Smith. You survived. You got everything you wanted. Can we just end this? I thought about Marcus, about his video, his letter, his dying wish that I'd be free. Yes, I said. We can end this. I signed the papers, watched her sign, watched 6 years of marriage dissolve into legal documents and financial transactions. 30 minutes later, it was over. Vanessa left without looking back. I watched her go and felt nothing. Not relief, not satisfaction. Just the quiet certainty that I'd survived something meant to destroy me. You okay? Chen asked. I thought about it. Really thought about it. I will be, I said. And for the first time in 6 years, I believed it. 6 months later, I stood at Marcus's grave. The headstone was simple. His name, his dates, the words, beloved husband, father, brother, friend. Nothing about him being a surgeon, saving lives, spending his last days saving mine. Just the essentials, just the truth. Hey, big brother, I said, setting down fresh flowers. Sophie had picked them wildflowers, bright and chaotic, the kind Marcus had loved. I brought the kids. They're with Alicia by the car. Didn't want to overwhelm you. The cemetery was quiet. Early morning, mist still clinging to the ground, the city waking up slowly around us. I'd started coming here weekly, not out of obligation, just because I wanted to. Because Marcus was gone but not absent. Because brothers don't stop being brothers just because one of them stops breathing. The divorce is final, I continued. Vanessa signed everything last week. I got the house, though I'm selling it. Too many ghosts, too many rooms that were never really mine. A bird landed on Marcus's headstone, looked at me, flew away. I got a new job, smaller firm, better people. Turns out I'm good at what I do when I'm not being sabotaged. Who knew? I smiled. You knew. You always knew. The settlement money had come through. Every penny Vanessa had stolen returned with interest. I'd put half in trust for Sophie and Max. Use the rest for a fresh start. New apartment, new life, new version of myself that looked suspiciously like the old version, the one before her. Alicia's doing better. The kids too. Sophie drew you another picture. Max said his first sentence last week, Dada home, broke Alicia's heart in the best way. I paused. They're going to be okay, Marcus. We all are. A text buzzed. Take your time. We're making a snowman. I looked back at the headstone, at my brother's name carved in granite, permanent, unchanging, unlike everything else. I'm dating someone, I said. Her name is Rachel. She's a teacher. Normal job, normal life. No hidden agendas. We met at a coffee shop. She asked if the seat next to me was taken, and I said no, and we just talked for 3 hours. About nothing important, about everything. The mist was lifting, the sun breaking through, the world continuing its rotation, indifferent to grief or joy or the small human dramas that felt so enormous from the inside. I'm happy, Marcus. For the first time in years, I'm actually happy. Not performing it, not pretending, just living. I touched the headstone, cold granite warming under my palm. Thank you for the video, for the evidence, for loving me enough to save me even when it cost you everything. You gave me my life back. I'm not going to waste it. I stood, brushed off my jeans, started walking toward the car where Alicia and the kids were building their snowman, their laughter carrying across the cemetery like proof that life continued, that joy survived, that love, real love, never died. 7 minutes older and still protecting me. Some things never change.